Welcome to another episode of Pearlmania500, the show where a husband and wife duo notice you across the bar.
Oh, no.
And they walk over.
Oh.
And they ask, hey, are you here by yourself? You have a great vibe about you.
Oh.
You know, we'd like to tell you a little bit about lore, because you feel like an old soul.
Okay, why don't you just introduce the show? I hate this so much.
You got it.
There's a place where you can't stay when the world gets too insane. Yeah, when the world gets too inane, tune in to Pearlmania. Brony talks and pony jars and saying a sonic race just. Fitness scams and grifters, damn, and various other miscellanea. So there's this place where you can stay to let those Pearlmans save ya. Pearlmania, Pearlmania, Pearlmania.
500.
Take it away, Pearlmans, and remember to smile.
And thank you again to our guest today. His Name Was Dusk. As always, our theme song is by His Name Was Dusk, and you can find him on social media, same name, at His Name Was Dusk, or you can go to his website, hisnamewasdusk.com, and his new album is out. You can go stream it. It's called The Things We Are Beneath. You can hear it wherever you find music. That is so cool. I'm so happy for my friend.
Yeah.
And with that, I want to let the listeners know it's the last time you're ever going to hear that theme.
I know, it's over.
That's the end of that theme.
That theme is done.
We have such a big announcement.
We have a couple big announcements.
Pretty major announcements that are happening right now this week. The biggest one that's going to be happening for the listeners out there is technically, this is officially the end of season 1.
Yeah, season 1, we're done.
Yeah, and with the end of season 1, it's a full overhaul. We're changing the name.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, that's exactly what we're doing. It is going to be called Too Many Tabs. That's
Too
what
Many Tabs.
That's what we're changing.
That's the name of the podcast.
That's the name of the podcast. It'll be Pearlmania500 presents Too Many Tabs.
Too Many Tabs.
The black and blue emblem you've gotten used to, we're changing that. It's going to be yellow.
Yeah. Sure. I didn't realize the whole thing's yellow.
Yeah, it's more of a yellow.
Yeah, it's got a lot of yellow. It still has some blue.
It still has some blue.
An homage to the original logo.
Yes, but we have a lot of changes coming on that side. But I wanted to warn you guys that the biggest thing is that you don't have to resubscribe. You don't have to do anything else. But when you go and you're looking on your podcasting apps, it will not say Pearlmania500. It'll say Too Many Tabs. So if you go to P and we're not there, don't freak out. Scroll a little further.
Yeah.
And the reason we're doing the change, the biggest reason, is because, honestly, I hate to say it, search engine optimization. I think we should be open about that.
Yeah, SEO is important.
Yeah, so if you type in Pearlmania500, you get my TikTok, you get my Instagram, you get a Twitter account I don't use. You get so many different things.
You get an article written by CNN that says that you are a psyop from China.
Yes, yes.
Like
You get
all
a lot
that before the podcast.
A lot of these things show up before the podcast. So
also, I just thought we should have a cool name like all the other podcasts have cool names.
Yeah, and also this name actually helps surmise the podcast a little bit better.
I think
because
so.
In reality, we do a lot of research, and that ends up with us having 67 tabs open at the top of all of our browsers, stacks of books.
And the reason my brain is broken the way it is because too many tabs of drugs in my youth.
Yeah. That many things. There's so many things.
And too many open tabs at a bar.
Too many open tabs at a bar. Too many tabs in life. There's so many things that this encompasses. So moving forward, the podcast will be called Too Many Tabs.
Too Many Tabs.
And His Name Was Dusk is working on a new theme song for us.
Yeah, it'll premiere next week.
Next week with the new...
This is all happening next week, by the way.
Yeah, by the way.
So, like, literally, next Sunday hits, it's going to be a new image, new name, new theme song.
Same great show.
Same great show.
That's the only thing that's staying the same. It's the actual content. Maybe our marriage.
Oh, what? I don't want to...
What?
We're not going to stay married.
I mean,
we're just becoming podcasters now.
Listen, I don't want to stay married for the kid, but I will stay married for the pod. Okay.
Yeah.
So with
The
that,
podcast doesn't take away my sleep.
yeah. So before I hit the button for all of our Patreons, because the Patreon name's still going to stay the same. That's still going to be Pearlmania500.net. We'll take you to patreon.com/Pearlmania500.
Sure.
I'm not changing that to too many tabs. But is there any other announcements you have before I go into the Hey Huns and all the other stuff?
Announcements. Okay, so I do have one announcement that's big for me.
Okay.
All right. Do you remember Jackie and Shadow?
What?
Jackie and Shadow.
Jackie and Shadow.
Jackie and Shadow are the bald eagles.
The
From
ones
Big
last
Bear,
year.
California, that they have the live cam. There's a live camera that's on 24/7 on YouTube. It's like Big Bear TV on YouTube.
Yeah.
And it's Jackie and Shadow, the two eagles, and they have an egg. Okay. Last year, heartbreaking.
Yeah.
You were just watching them watch their egg, sit on their egg, and the egg didn't catch.
And last year, I remember you watching it because we turned on one time like during a blizzard.
Yeah, and they were just sitting in the
And
snow.
they were like sitting there getting blasted in the face by a blizzard, like, we're going to live, this baby's going to live. And then the egg didn't
egg didn't hatch.
Yeah.
So this year, we're back. We got a new egg.
Okay.
And that's the only update is because I just keep watching this YouTube channel
That's
of this
what you're
bird
watching?
sitting in a nest.
You know what they should do?
What?
If they really want to up it even more, put lo-fi beats behind it.
Oh my, yo.
I would
done.
watch the shit out of it if it was just some birds in the snow with some lo-fi beats.
And at the end, we get to see if a baby is born.
Yeah.
Baby bald eagle.
A baby bald eagle.
I got Jackie and Shadow. I got you this year.
Yeah. Do lo-fi beats of patriotic American music. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
I think that would be good. So with that, any other announcements for you, Mrs. P?
No, I've just been watching the birds on
Watching
YouTube.
the birds. So we did officially end. We grandfathered out. I think the word they actually use, I didn't delete it. It's unlist.
We unlisted it.
We unlisted the $3 Hey Hun tier. We had a lot of people pick up that tier this week.
had to do it. Had to get the deal.
A ton of people have.
Who hasn't done it?
Because they all know that we're going for that $7.50. So I can read that second Horny Fairy book that we are currently keeping under a glass case in the house.
Big horny.
So there's a lot of horny people out there. So we have a lot of people that we wish to greet this week.
Hey, hon, let's meet our team leaders.
All right, Mrs. P, are you ready?
Yes.
We have so many underscores.
Oh my gosh.
Do you see? Do you see how many underscores I have here? One of them cheated too. They put like multiple underscores between, but they didn't write underscores. So here we go. Tired _student _who _just _wants _ the second book slander.
Hey, hon.
After that, we have Elspeth.
Hey, hon.
After that, we have Borg Queen XOXO.
Oh, Borg Queen XOXO.
I like that one. I would, you know what? If you were a Borg Queen,
Yeah.
I'd give you a smoochie.
Thanks.
You're welcome. After that, we have Heather KL.
Hey, hon.
After that, we have Allison B.
Hey, hon.
After that, we have Old Timey Butt Stuff _ by Kellogg's.
Okay, that's really great. I love
Yeah.
that.
You can always tell when somebody's going through old episodes when they come across that. What's going to be weird for people when they're going to like on episode 20 because they want to catch up to the modern and then I'm going to get in there for that $3 tier and it's gone.
Oh, we're sorry.
After that, we have L _and _ Jackie _want _2 _here _about _horny _fairies _fum _Pearlman _
They even put an underscore after your name.
I know.
Hateful behavior. Hey,
They're getting really deep on these underscores. After that, it's the weekend.
Hey, hon. That's the weekend, but a vampire.
Yes, hello.
It's a vampire that does a lot of cocaine.
Yeah.
It's a nice way to say it.
I can't feel my numbers when I'm with you.
Not the count.
Well, come on.
That's your first vampire?
We have a baby in the room.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay.
Well, I guess I shouldn't be
I
talking
even did
about cocaine
the,
vampires.
I know. Well, you've been to a lot of things on this podcast in front of your son. After that, we have thy _name _is _mayhem.
Hey, hon.
After that, we have grandfather _me _in _mommy _Pearlman _ They wrote out _ the bastards.
I love that. Hi, hon.
Okay. Oh my God. There's so many underscores. After that, we have listen _up _poop _butt. You _r _a _cutie _patootie.
Poop butt.
Like _rats _2 a $3 ship _ butt.
Wait, why don't you take a
better.
break? I'll read the next one. Okay. not underscore underscore cult underscore but underscore Ken underscore it underscore B. It's got a culty vibe.
Yeah,
sure.
It does.
It's reading all this stuff about cults over the year. I think we could master starting a cult for sure.
Definitely.
We got Coffee Leaf 90.
Yep.
You gotta say, hey, hun.
Hey, hun.
An earthworm having a seizure.
Hey, hun.
Hey, hun. Spicy noodle bucket.
Ooh, I'd like that.
Yeah.
I want a bucket of spicy noodles.
Noodle bucket.
After that, we have, here's some underscores for you.
Jenny underscore is underscore here underscore for underscore mist underscore and underscore fury.
Yeah, it's annoying, isn't it?
No, it's fine. I'm stronger than you.
Okay.
Patreon underscore is underscore too hard underscore to figure underscore out. So I'm underscore still underscore listening underscore to ads.
They're still listening to ads. So just to you guys
I thought
know,
it said toads.
I did it first too. So just for the listeners out there, if you are having a difficulty with that, we upload the episode each week to Patreon directly. You can listen to it through the Patreon app. If you are on, I believe it's iTunes or Spotify, you can go and click. There are some links in there that you can use to use your native player to listen to it without ads that way. After that, we have Heidi M.
Hey, hun.
After that, we have Snarkalopagus.
Hey, hun.
Snarkalopagus.
Yeah,
sorry.
Snarkalopagus.
After that, we have Marmalade March in parentheses. Thank you guys so much. You've been getting me through college.
Hey, hun. You got this.
Yeah. After that, we have Consecrated Apathy.
That would be an incredible T-shirt.
All right.
Hey, hun.
I'm going to shake it
You're
out.
You're back in.
We got a big block.
You got
There's
this.
a big block right here
You got
of
this.
underscores. Tiny underscore raccoon underscore hands underscore giving underscore the underscore finger.
Hey, hun.
After that, we have Andrew underscore Tates underscore Falcon underscore sex underscore hat.
Okay, wait. Now I have questions.
Andrew Tate's Falcon sex hat. The person messaged us and said, yes, Falcon sex hats are a real thing. I did not Google it. I refuse to go deeper.
Oh, I want to Google it right now.
After that, we have Brian's underscore here underscore for underscore Faye underscore smut underscore and underscore rants.
Hey, hun.
After that,
Okay.
we have if underscore Jane underscore Austin underscore wrote underscore Twilight.
All right. My turn.
Okay.
Consider underscore me underscore granddaddied?
Yes.
Oh, get it, because they're granddaddied in.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah. After that,
Soup for my family.
Hey.
Hey, let's go. Oh, no. You got to keep soup for your family in your backpack at all times. You never know when you're going to need soup for your family.
Especially during turbulent times.
Just a
Have
can
a
of
can.
and I'm not talking about a Campbell soup can.
No, you want
A nice
Progresso.
Progresso.
Yeah, a good
Italian
thick 'em.
wedding.
I'd go with a Chicorina myself.
Well, yeah.
I'm a big Chicorina guy.
Yeah.
I like a chicken meatball. It makes no sense.
No, it's good. It's a good soup.
No. I mean, just in general though, it's like chickens aren't a thing you typically meatball. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's
well,
like-
I like you know what I like? I
What
like
you
a
like?
fish meatball in a faux. A fish meatball. Oh my god, yeah.
Read the next name.
Okay. Mothman underscore 8 underscore my underscore hole underscore ass underscore at underscore underscore Denny's. I'm gonna need you to elaborate on that story. Hey, hun.
After that, we have here for book 2.
Hey, hun.
After that, we have Ari Yovel.
Hey, hun.
After that, we have yarn is my hyperfixation.
Hey, hun.
All right, we're halfway there.
We got this.
There's
We're
so many
doing
names.
this.
After that, we have Professor Bubble Tits.
I got an A in their class.
Yeah, you got an A in there at class?
Yeah.
After that, we have underscore we underscore r underscore finally underscore getting underscore a underscore wawa underscore in underscore mobile underscore Alabama underscore.
Oh my god.
I can only imagine the chaos of a Mobile, Alabama fucking Wawa at
Incredible.
2:30 in the morning.
Incredible.
You know what? I think I've mentioned on this before. Alabama, Tuscaloosa, Alabama in particular is the
Okay.
place where I sobered up.
Yeah. I don't know if you told that story.
I don't know if I've told it on the podcast.
I've heard it.
Yeah, I know you've heard it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was on a pretty big bender a few years ago. Dried out.
I'm sorry. Decade ago.
Oh Jesus, yeah, it was a decade ago. I was on a pretty big bender, and I dried out in a Motel 6 in Tuscaloosa, Alabama.
As one does.
Because when I got there, I said, "Hey, where's the closest bar?" And they said Tennessee because it was a Sunday and they didn't serve any alcohol.
Yep, that
so I had
just
to sit
happened.
there for 24 hours with no alcohol. And that's when I realized I was like, I need to cut back.
There's certain places in the world where when you're there, you're like, wait a minute, I've made some mistakes. I myself had a dry out episode in Wisconsin. And I was like, you know what? Your girl needs rehab.
Yeah. You know what's funny? I think
Wisconsin will break you like that.
I think aren't those like the same time zone? Maybe it's just that time zone. When an East Coaster reaches that time zone, we're like, listen, I gotta stop drinking.
Change my life. I gotta get out of here. Why am I Wisconsin?
After that, we have two Ravens.
Hey, hun.
After that, we have Kath.
Hey, hun.
Hey, listen, Kath. I love your Death Cab for Cutie song. Kath. After that, Lost_neutral.
Hey, hun.
After that, we have Robert Heilman.
Robert.
I almost said it, Heinlein, who's a really good author. After that, Tamara Zimmer.
Hey, hun.
After that, idiot_who_can't_there_name.
That you did it.
No, they didn't. They actually messaged me, and I changed it in the Excel doc. So
I was so proud of them.
No, you shouldn't be. But they reached out. They reached out.
You know what? You got to ask for help.
You know why? What's funny about that is the name. This is not changed. The name that immediately came after them, anonymity_accountability_penguin.
Hey, hon.
After that, we have how_you_like_them_soups_.
How you like them soups? We've been discussing. He likes the canned soups. I only keep the soup for my family for, in case of family emergencies.
Second Amendment.
Yeah.
You have a Second Amendment soup.
It's my right.
Yeah. 12 gauge soup over here.
A well-formed militia of soups.
Yeah.
Just like a bunch of gals with crock pots strapped to our backs.
You know what I keep thinking of is
What?
the fact that Chef Boyardee was a real man, right? And he actually did serve for the troops. Like they did a lot. If you go back to like World War II, there's a lot of like video and newsreels of like Chef Boyardee cooking up hot meals for the troops on the front line here in France.
Yeah.
And it's like imagining Chef Boyardee loading cans of overstuffed ravioli into bazookas. Be like, go get the Germans. I don't know why I made him German. I don't know. He's Italian. He'd be like, go get the Germans.
Okay.
After that, we have Barbs_over_buyers_.
Hey, hun.
After that, we have Art by Con.
Hey, hun.
After that, we have Sparkle. Hot Marta. Sparkle.
How did Marta get sparkles?
I don't know how.
Incredible,
I'm
impressive.
shocked that
I am living for
the
icon.
actual Sparkle emojis made their
Icon
way.
of innovation over
Let me
here.
tell you how far this went. I downloaded the doc from Patreon into an Excel file.
Yep.
I then imported it to Google Drive.
Yeah.
And her sparkles emojis. Still there.
Incredible.
She carried it across 3 platforms.
Yeah.
Probably wrote it from a phone too. That's like 4 platforms right there.
Damn.
You are hot, Marta. After that, we have Sista_Fista_40K. That's a Sisters of Battle reference, and I know that there's some people who are clamoring for me to someday explain Warhammer 40,000 to you.
Okay.
And I am going to go on the record right now to say I'm not refusing, but I am hesitant.
Okay, Warhammer, that's the video game?
Shut the fuck up.
Okay.
After that, we have Mandy from Minnesota.
Hey, hun.
Followed by Whiskey Business.
Whiskey Business.
After that, we have Justin.
Just Justin. Hey, hun.
Not just Justin.
It just says Justin.
I know, but don't just call him just Justin.
Okay.
After that, we have Had to Get the Great Value While It Lasts.
That's what I'm saying. The deals.
After that, we have Derek, a.k.a. Mr. Going More Negative so I can get $3 tier.
Hey, hun.
After that, we have Turned the Boner Tower into subsidized housing.
Hey, hun.
Yeah.
We got to think of the people.
Listen, you need to explain the Boner Tower to people.
I do?
People don't understand. In Philadelphia, there is a dilapidated, I think it's 11-story building.
It's a former hotel, I believe, right?
No, you're thinking of Divine Lorraine.
Oh, I'm thinking of Divine Lorraine.
There's a tower in Philly. It's in North Philly, just north of Temple.
Yeah.
And along one side of the building, someone has spray painted in individual letters, Boner Forever.
Boner is a guy.
Boner's a guy?
Boner, that's his graffiti tag. That's his name. He goes by Boner.
Oh, I didn't know that.
I do know this because I have a T-shirt from when Boner did a collab with a T-shirt company we shall not name. And I have the original first print of the Boner T-shirt because it has the big B.
Oh.
And but that's the thing. Like, that's his name. He writes Boner on everything.
It doesn't matter, though. When you're driving from North Philadelphia to South Philadelphia through Temple, there's a giant dilapidated building.
Yeah, it says Boner for Life.
That was a former bank building that says Boner Forever, the number 4. ever. Like he's the NWO and taking over WCW. So like this person is like, turn it into subsidized housing. 100% agree.
Absolutely.
That person also.
It won't happen though because it's Temple and they're going to turn it into condos.
Yeah, and but this person also messaged in that they listen to us on their commute every day to help unhoused people across North Philadelphia. So
hey,
turn the Boner Tower into subsidized housing. We salute you.
We salute you.
After that, we have Lisa Rust.
Hey, hun.
After that, we have I Fix Things.
Hey, hun.
After that, we have Comstock Ruin Bioshock Infinite.
I don't know what any of that meant, but hey, hun.
And finally, we have a few more, but I have highlighted this one.
I see that it's
because
highlighted.
This is the official last Hey Hun $3 tier member to ever join. I shut it down at 4:58 p.m. On Saturday.
Yep.
I unlisted the tier at 4:59. This came through. So this person was already
through. Popped like a pimple.
They
Pushed
had
through.
it in the cart.
Yeah.
So a big Hey Hun welcome to The Nightman Cometh.
Hey, hun.
After that, we have a few more. We have Carrie McCormick.
Hey, hun.
After that, we have Meister Wizard.
Hey, hun.
After that, we have John Perez.
Hey, hun.
After that, we have Your Pod is My Niche Hobby.
Hey, hun. I love a hobby.
And finally,
we
have finger_in_ass_holding_in_shit.
Finger in ass holding and shit?
Yep.
Perfect.
That's a great way to close out.
That is the greatest way to close the sheer amount of Hey Huns we've just done.
Hey, hon, let's meet our team leaders.
So, with that, I will let everybody know we are currently at 660 paid Patreons.
We're going to be so
concurrent.
Cool. You're going to read that book.
I'm going to read that fucking book.
And you're going to be so upset, and it's going to be so fun.
I am actually shocked with how many people have jumped on in the last couple weeks.
How people are super into smut right now.
People are really into it. I think people just, spring's around the corner, and we can all
Bunny
feel
rabbits.
it. And we all know, and I will say that the person who sent us the book, it's the large hardback version.
Yeah.
Which means larger print.
Yeah.
Which means I'm going to have a feeling of more accomplishment because I'm going to be turning the page faster.
Love that. I do that on my Kindle sometimes.
Yeah.
I'll make the print really big.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, there's so many pages.
Just remind everybody before we go and start the episode and bring in His Name Was Dusk and tell you all about L Bernays and the creation of the public relations industry.
Oh my gosh.
And how that has rotted all of our brains into a level of propaganda you can't imagine.
It's not about Bernays sauce.
It's not.
Which is what I thought.
No, it is not. Before that, though, we just want to remind everyone the same show is going to be called Too Many Tabs. You don't need to do anything. You will just probably look for it in a different spot.
Yeah.
We are going to be blasting it out everywhere to remind you with the image and all that other fun stuff.
Super cool image.
Super cool image.
Worked a long time.
It's a very lot of us with a graphic designer being like, love it, tweak this, love it, tweak this, love it, pinch it, stretch it. Those are actual words I've written into emails.
Yeah.
But we are super excited for this.
We're so hyped. This is like
and this is the first step in a lot of changes that are going to happen. A lot of really cool things.
Yeah, we've had a lot of ideas. We've been sitting alone in a house together
with a baby,
with a potato that doesn't talk to us.
He screams,
but he doesn't talk. So we only have each other to talk to.
Yes,
with our screaming potato.
And
because of that, we've had many ideas.
Yes.
And we've been working on the whole time that we've used these pre-recorded episodes, we've been using that time to get all of our ducks in a row to relaunch season 2 bigger and better than ever.
Yes. And during that time, we've also been researching not only topics that we're going to do on future episodes, but also some changes that you guys have been requesting repeatedly for this audio-only experience that maybe could be something else. Just a little hint there. So
I've also been reading some books.
Yes, you have.
I've been reading some books.
There's a lot of book clubs on the horizon. There's a lot of other changes. We have just started putting out the polls to find out more information of what you guys really lean into on the Patreon. But the last thing I will say for everyone out there for that Hey Hun group, congratulations. That will probably be the last time it'll be at the front of the episode.
Yeah.
We will be doing shout outs towards the end of the episodes moving forward because a lot of people want to get into that meat and potatoes. And I know a lot of you guys just go ahead and skip ahead.
Meat, potatoes, broccoli, and cheddar.
Yeah. And so with that,
yeah,
Mrs. P, any final words before we kick it to the past?
Everybody have a great week. It's almost spring. We're all going to get sunshine soon. We can do this. Let's go.
And with that, y'all, ask your boss for a raise. Honestly, no.
No, do it. Fucking do it.
No, tell your boss.
Yeah, what's
tell
the
your
worst
boss,
they're going to do? What's they going to say? No? Okay.
Okay. Then go back to your desk
Yeah.
and get paid the same. They can't give you less money.
Do less work.
Yeah.
Then you're getting paid more.
Hey! Poop more often.
Yeah.
All right, with that, we look forward to talking to you guys next week on Pearlmania500 presents
Too many tabs.
Too Many Tabs.
Pearlmania, 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 Pearlmania.
500. That's right, we're here, and we're here in the past.
Yeah.
We're recording this at the end of October.
The future past.
The future past.
Uh-huh.
We just heard ourselves in the future talking about just what's going on in our lives. We're still technically on the paternity and maternity family leave.
Yep.
But
I'm not.
We're having a great time.
yeah, but right now we're sitting here with His Name Was Dusk.
Yeah. He's also he's our doula. He's helping take care of the child.
Yeah.
Breathe.
Yep.
Yeah. So we're doing great. Everyone's
He knows what a doula does.
everyone's super happy.
I've watched enough sitcoms. Like, there's always a doula in a
Yeah.
sitcom.
So anyway, so we're here, and then we're gonna do this whole episode. And this episode, I don't know, it feels very relevant for now when we're recording
For
it.
today.
For today, here at the end of October. But I don't know how relevant, and hopefully it is not as relevant.
Yeah.
In probably late February when we air it. I don't
Sure.
know. I hope so.
Around my birthday.
Around your birthday.
Yeah.
We're hoping. Because this is gonna,
Definitely my birthday.
so,
Sorry, go on.
So this episode is going to be about Edward L Bernays.
Like the Bernays sauce?
That would be cooler. It would be much nicer.
Oh, if this is a whole podcast about sauce?
It would be so great if it was about Bernays sauce. Maybe about Benedict's,
Yeah.
an egg Benedict with like Canadian bacon or ham or
I don't actually know what Bernays sauce is.
it's like in Bernays sauce it's like a hollandaise.
Yeah, I think it's like similar to a hollandaise sauce.
I think they're similar.
I think so. I don't know.
You can look that up.
I'll
That
look
one's
it up.
fine. I'll allow it.
Okay.
Sometimes I get mad because she'll just start Googling something to come up with a joke for like 5 minutes. And I'm like, I'm still talking and you're not making eye contact with me.
Well, it's a little easier with me here because now we can fill time.
Yeah. No, that's. Yeah. It would be even easier if you ate the mic a little more.
Oh, you want me to get up on the mic? I'm
Yeah.
just afraid
It
of
says
touching it because you
Bernays sauce,
reprimanded
which
me.
is French, is made of butter, egg yolk, white wine vinegar, and herbs. It is regarded as a child of hollandaise sauce. The difference is only the flavoring. Bernays uses shallots, black peppers, and tarragon, and hollandaise uses white pepper and a pinch of cayenne.
Okay.
So yeah, it's like hollandaise.
Yeah, they're basically the same.
I don't know. I
don't
feel
know?
like it's a child. Like, throw it back. Wait till it grows up.
Yeah. I don't want it on my eggs.
No, I understand.
Should I just remove the pop filter so I can get close to the mic?
No. It was fine. It was just the angle that it was at.
All right, okay.
Listen. This is the second episode we've recorded today.
It's true.
And so some of us are a little testy. Some of us have headaches.
one
Some
of
of us
us.
didn't get to take a nap while everyone else got to take a nap.
It's only one of us.
Can I actually just say, and this will probably be like vindicating for the two of you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The first time I did one, I was like gung ho to do the second one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This time, I'm like, I could see how sometimes they're like a little like it was a lot. It was a lot. Today.
Yeah. No, it was. It was a lot today. But now here we are in the past talking to our listeners in the future. We love and respect all of them. I think, I don't know, a lot could happen between when this is being recorded
it's
and when.
true.
Yeah.
Yeah. But let's talk about propaganda.
Oh, wait. I thought we were talking about brunch sauces.
No. The man is Edward L Bernays.
Okay.
He is considered the father of public relations, which is a term he created because people got really weird about calling it propaganda.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah. So I'm going to let you guys know that some of the information I got, obviously, besides just from his Wikipedia and general internet stuff, I did go to the library and I walked around all the reference books.
Okay.
Pulling them off the shelves. Our library didn't have any of the many books written by Edward L Bernays himself. But I did get some good summaries of his life. One of them was from the Encyclopedia of World Biography, which is a reference book.
Okay.
He was not in the, quote, Great Lives from History Jewish Americans reference book, though. But that book does have Henry Kissinger and Woody Allen on the cover. So, when we're going with, they were like, yeah, here we go. Great Jews.
So the guy who invented PR
Yeah. Not,
doesn't have enough good PR to get on that book?
yes.
But Woody Allen does.
And Henry Kissinger.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Sammy Good, not Sammy Good. Sammy Davis Jr. was also on the
Yes.
cover. So I was
Okay,
like,
well,
that's
all right,
all over the
well.
place.
So it's really just celebrities.
Basically, yeah. Well, it's celebrities and then like a couple Supreme Court justices. That's most of that book.
Okay.
So Edward L. Bernays, he was born in 1891.
All right.
And he was born in the Austro-Hungarian Empire.
Ooh.
Okay.
So a lot
I
of
noticed you didn't hit the button.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, no, we have not. There's in no way am I hitting the no Nazi guarantee
go on.
button.
Oh no.
No, it's fine because he leaves. He leaves the Austro-Hungarian Empire in 1892 at the age of 1 year old. His
Okay.
parents get a job. His mom's name was Anna, and his dad's name was Eli. His mother was Sigmund Freud's sister.
Oh.
Yeah, like that's Sigmund Freud, like
Oh.
Dr. Freud.
Wait.
Okay.
His mom
Yeah.
had the same mom as Freud?
Yes.
Yo, that's wild. Because
And-
that mom caused a lot of issues.
Sure.
And his dad was the brother of Sigmund Freud's wife.
Hold up. Wait.
Okay.
Oh, I don't
Wait.
like that.
That's a connected tree, but not genetically.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it was like two brother sister pairs marrying.
Yeah. It's like when you see those twins that marry other twins.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
So weird.
It's so strange.
Yeah. So, but it's that deal there.
And then Freud had all that time to talk shit on his mom when everybody else was doing this type of wild shit.
yes, 100%. But we're not here to talk
This
about
feels
Freud.
like a weird crossover with the last episode that I did. Because I mentioned Freud in the Dali episode,
Oh, right.
which I can talk about now.
Yeah. So Freud's wife's name was Martha Bernays. And then their the paternal grandfather was Isaac Bernays. He was the chief rabbi of Hamburg and a relative of the poet Heinrich Heine. I looked a little bit into him. Very complicated poet.
A
from
Mecca like
Germany.
a high, Mecca a heiny ho.
That's why I left it in there, just so you'd have that joke.
Thank you.
So like I said, they moved to New York City when Edward was 1 year old.
Okay.
When they moved there, his dad became a grain merchant, so he's buying and selling grains and stuff like that.
All right. Oats,
in
barley,
New York.
wheat.
Yep. His dad Eli really hoped that his son would also follow him, and become a grain merchant and work in this type of thing.
Gotta make that bread.
Yep. Edward. Edward went to New York City schools. I'm taking my shirt off. I know I'm in it now. Edward went to New York City schools and eventually enrolled in the Agricultural College of Cornell University.
Oh, corn.
Okay.
Got it.
Yeah, because when I think of Cornell, I think of
I didn't,
all the
I
great
didn't realize
farmers.
that. I didn't realize that Cornell was a farm school about corn
Yeah, no.
until now.
Yeah, well, okay. I guess this is going to be a very punny episode.
Where is Cornell again?
Isn't Cornell? I think Cornell's in New York.
Okay.
Like in New York
And
City.
Where was he living before this?
In New York City.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah,
Okay,
so
right,
he's like-
'cause he moved at one. He moved at one.
Yeah,
My
yeah.
bad.
So he's living in New York City. Where's Cornell?
It's in Ithaca.
Ithaca, New York.
Ithaca.
Okay, so it's more upstate. So he goes to Cornell. He graduates from Cornell University in 1912. Mm-hmm. And he got a job working like in the grain type of agricultural stuff. And he starts writing for an agricultural publication. And he works for a grain exchange for a little bit. In fact, even moving to Paris. And while working at the grain exchange, basically he was reading what's called grain cables.
Okay.
So the same way you read like stock tickers.
yeah.
So he was reading like, okay, in this area, they're paying this much per pound of wheat or whatever.
He was like prospecting.
Kind of, yeah.
was
That's basically the whole
prospecting the
thing.
price.
It is, yeah,
Buying
yeah.
and trading futures.
Yep.
What was the name of the? You said sorry. You said a grain. He worked at a grain
Publication.
publication.
It did not say the name. I could
Because
not
that's
find the name.
Such a specific.
But
Yeah.
well, you know what it is? It's a lot like those magazines that are very industry specific.
Uh-huh.
Do you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
so, like oh yeah, it's for I'm trying to think like concrete.
Yeah, sure.
Concrete Quarterly or something
Yeah.
like that. It's that sort of general.
All the
thing.
lawyers have the Bar Reporter. They
Yeah.
all read the Bar Reporter magazine.
the gluten report.
yeah, this is what you're describing.
Yeah, the gluten report.
The gluten report.
Yeah. This man invented propaganda and gluten.
Wow.
So he's your best friend.
Yeah.
Okay. So Edward Bernays, he did about a year of this, looked around, looked at both facets, actually being somebody who buys and sells the idea of food, and then someone who could write up about it. And he decided he liked doing the writing part better. And he tells his dad that he's going to pursue a career in journalism instead of grain sales.
And this broke his father.
His dad wasn't super happy about it, but like his family was doing well enough. They're like, okay, yeah, I guess go try out comedy.
I think you accidentally said comedy.
Oh yeah, no, sorry. That
might have been a Bernaysian slip.
Yeah. So Edward, with a friend of his, becomes the founder and co-editor of a magazine called the Medical Review of Reviews, as well as a second magazine called Dietetic and Hygienic Gazette in 1912.
All right. These are terrible names.
Yes.
You want me to believe someone who invented PR and propaganda came up with these really bad names?
So this is 1912.
Right.
Remember, so these are great names.
You gotta fail before you can succeed. Like
Got it.
Knowing it's like why did we put review twice? Got to write that down. Don't put review twice.
Don't put review twice.
But see, this is a review of reviews.
Yeah, the idea of a Yelp for Yelps is hilarious.
Yeah. Well, that's basically that's what CNET is, and like a bunch of other websites where you're going online and you're looking at things to help you with online things of like, oh, hey, where's the best? Are Google reviews better than Zillow reviews versus better than this? Like, that's that same general idea, and that's what he's doing, and he does it in a basically free magazine that has a national distribution network to thousands of doctors across the United States.
Okay, see, because I was like, how's it free, but it's going to doctors?
Yep.
And it's being paid for by corn subsidies?
It's being paid for by advertisement, and then also basically a Patreon of its own where he has certain patrons who are paying for it. And then also the doctors themselves like, hey, if you like our mission, please give us money. Speaking of which, if you're out there listening right now, you can always join our Patreon, Pearlmania.net. It'll take you right to our Patreon. Also, patreon.com/Pearlmania500. So with that, he's sending these out, and it's going well. It's actually building up a really good network, and like people are like, oh yeah, the Medical Review of Reviews is a reputable magazine. It's starting to do so well that he starts the Sociological Fund.
Okay.
Yep.
Is this a nonprofit to hide cash flow?
It's not to hide cash flow.
Okay.
It's actually, he starts basically a nonprofit, but it's to do one specific thing. And he decides to do this, and he markets it, and he's able to do it. He raises $11,000
Okay.
to produce and stage a French medical play titled Les Ovaries.
Okay, ovaries is eggs, right?
It translates to damaged goods in English.
Oh.
Okay.
So this is a play about venereal disease. Specifically syphilis.
Okay.
So this is a synopsis of the play.
All right.
In the play, a 26-year-old man named George DuPont is about to marry his fiancée. When a doctor is in the first scene, the doctor's explaining to George DuPont, hey, you have syphilis. You should not get married right now. You should be treated for this syphilis, and you should enter into treatment so you don't pass it on to your fiance and any future children you have.
Yeah.
Now, at that time, a treatment for syphilis was a 3 to 4 year treatment involving like horrifying medicine.
Well, yeah.
It wasn't great. In the 40s, we invent penicillin, and we're able to actually deal with syphilis very well. In the play, though, George DuPont refuses. He goes on and he gets married. The couple get married. They have a baby. And the baby in the second act is very, very sick.
Yeah.
And they bring in a different doctor. And that doctor eventually diagnoses the baby with congenital syphilis. They are arguing back and forth. The doctor, the mother of the child, I'll just call her the bride from here, the bride, and George, they're all arguing back and forth because they don't want the doctor to tell the wet nurse because then the child won't be able to eat. And the wet nurse hears them arguing about it and refuses to treat the baby. The second scene ends with the mom falling to the ground, screaming and crying that her child is going to die. The third act, the bride's father, who is a well-off man, goes to the original doctor who diagnosed George, George DuPont, and says to him, He wants the doctor to declare that George knew he had syphilis before he married his daughter.
An annulment.
Yep, so that way his daughter can get a divorce. And the doctor refuses because of privacy laws.
Sure.
HIPAA didn't exist back then, but there was still the general privacy. Sure. And then the father says that there should be mandatory blood tests that should happen before anyone is allowed to get married. Mm-hmm. And the doctor says, no, there's already too many laws. We should just stop being so fucking weird about syphilis.
Okay.
And that's the end of the play.
Wait. Okay.
Oh my God.
It's a morality play.
Right, but it doesn't actually solve there's two competing
There's a lot of
opinions.
different morals going on.
Yeah. So just so you know, by 1954, all but eight states across the United States required blood tests before they issued marriage licenses.
Yeah, I know that part.
Now it's not. We don't do it anymore.
When did they stop?
They didn't stop until pretty recently, like in like the last 20, 25 years.
What time period was that you said that they did
By
it?
1954.
So in 1954, what exactly could they test with a blood test? Because I know that a lot of stuff has come up more recently.
You were testing mostly for syphilis. So syphilis, gonorrhea, and a bunch of other venereal diseases. And it was to stem their idea being, hey, before you get married, because you're not supposed to be having sex before then.
Yeah.
Before you get married, though, we should test you. And so a lot of people would go to like Niagara Falls was a place where you didn't have to get tested.
Sure.
And there were certain states. So you would have a lot of people who would, quote, run away and get eloped.
Right.
That was the, we don't have to do, like when Mrs. Pearlman and I got our marriage certificate, we went to an office. We both had our IDs, and we both sat down and said, yeah, we want to get married. And then they were like, okay, well, you're both consenting adults. Stamp, here you go. But back then, you'd have to go to an office, we both want to get married. They'd be like, okay, you have to both go to a medical thing. They have to fill out paperwork. Then those have to be sent to the court. Then the court will stamp. It would take like a week or a month.
Yeah.
Right. You go in there and they're like, okay, which one of you has syphilis?
Yeah.
Basically.
So he wrote a magazine for doctors.
Yes.
About reviews.
Yep.
That was also just full of advertisements, and the docs loved it, so they signed up for his Patreon to get more of these reviews about reviews. And then he used that money to start a nonprofit to teach people about the worrisomeness of syphilis.
No, he to take the stigma off of syphilis.
How did that play out? Stigma?
Because it's not the bride or the child's fault that they got syphilis.
Well, yeah, that was always implied, right? I thought
No, it wasn't. Back then, the wife and the child would both be outcast from society after that moment.
Okay.
And that's the whole thing is the damaged goods isn't because they went out and the bride was whoring around or that the baby really wanted syphilis or even the wet nurse.
Yeah.
Because you can't pass it on. That you can't pass on congenital syphilis that way unless there's an open sore on the areola. Like I looked it up.
Which does happen.
It does happen. But it can happen, but it's less likely.
Yeah.
This was actually a huge play.
Was it successful? Did people love this?
It was incredibly successful. The first performance of Damaged Goods, a special matinee for members of the Sociological Fund, occurred on March 14th, 1913 at the Fulton Theater on Broadway in New York City. The following month, the Sociological Fund arranged for a special performance of the play at the National Theater in Washington, D.C. for U.S. President Woodrow Wilson, members of his cabinet, and members of Congress. After that, the play then held its public premiere at the Fulton Theater in Broadway. It now has enough press about it.
Yeah.
It played for 66 performances when initially they were only planning on running it for 14 performances.
Wow.
And then following that run, the main actor who was playing it, took it as a play across the country. In the United States, this play was a huge deal and actually changed the way people viewed venereal disease specifically, of how you can get it from having sex, but it also might not be your fault.
Yeah.
That became in the Victorian era, or the Edwardian era, this period of time, that wasn't how this was viewed. Remember, syphilis was viewed as the French disease or the Italian disease, depending, whatever country you hated the most, you blamed syphilis for. That was like an ancient thing. That's how long ever since the day after we were post-potato, because potatoes and syphilis came to Europe at the same time. weird.
Syphilis from llamas, right? Isn't that like a?
I don't know if it's from llamas.
That's what I heard.
I just picture him packing the boat. All right, what do we got? We got everything. We got the llamas.
Yeah.
We got
one guy's like, hold on, hold the boat.
We got potatoes. They're gonna be so excited to get these potatoes. Wait till they figure out what you can do with potatoes and cheese sauce.
Yeah.
Now, I feel like what is the one thing we're missing?
Hey, Lumpy Larry. He wasn't
Lumpy Larry.
He wasn't lumpy when we left Spain, by the way. I just want to point that
out.
No,
that's just like a fun nickname. It's like when you see a really big guy and they all call him Tiny. It's fine. It's just Lumpy Larry.
But now he's like really lumpy.
No, I was. I had the lumps before. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
That's my Spanish accent. Don't worry about it.
Yeah. Don't let Lumpy Larry. Don't let him show you his dick. All right. You don't want to see Lumpy Larry's dick. But so the play was incredibly well received in America. It was banned in the United Kingdom and Australia. And it was restricted to male-only audiences in Montreal, Quebec, Canada. Because, again, this is originally a French play. And then it was translated. And then while they're trying to show it in other different places, it gets banned. The play was the first time the words syphilis were said in a stage play in the United States.
I like that in this scenario, America's more chill about morality around sex stuff than Australia.
Yeah.
The first and only time.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, they do still Photoshop labias out in Australia.
Okay. I just meant like historically because they were a prison camp. We were a religious camp.
Yeah, no, but the Australians are super weird about sex still.
Oh, really?
Yeah, no, they like legit. It's illegal to show. I think it's the labia.
I don't know.
In their version of Playboy and magazines stuff like that. Like, you're not allowed to show certain parts of the actual existing anatomy.
That is really bizarre.
In parts. I don't know. Maybe they pulled that back.
I would Google it, but I don't want to ruin my search engine.
You really don't want to.
Yeah.
The New York Times referred to, when they were discussing the play, referred to it as a rare blood disease and, quote, a subject which hitherto has practically been confined to medical publications. Because again, they wouldn't even talk. Like, this is just a disease. Nobody wants to even say the name of it.
Yeah,
they were so weirded out by it because against that Victorian age feeling.
The Scottish disease.
Yeah. Meanwhile, 10% of the United States population.
Why do you hate Scotland?
No, because of the Scottish play.
Oh,
you're not supposed to say its name.
That's pretty good. Oh man. 10% of the United States population at the time had or was at risk for syphilis.
10%?
Yeah, it was.
That's a pretty high number.
It was incredibly, incredibly high.
People do love having sex, though.
Yeah. The American production of damaged goods mitigated the potentially controversial effects of its subject matter by its associations with respectable journals like the Medical Review of Reviews, as well as gaining the approval of John D. Rockefeller, the mayor of New York, as well as the president and other people at the time. In a feature story, the New York Times described the play as, quote, having the approval of many of our leading men and women. So because all these high-powered
women,
Eleanor Roosevelt and I think FDR also around this time. I don't know if he was governor. I don't think he was governor of New York at the time. But there were like people who were in higher society, who were like, no, this is a medical play. Like, yeah, it's talking about bawdy stuff, but bawdy as in like a baby with syphilis. But like it's better than just. This isn't guys standing around in a saloon being like, how'd you get it?
This isn't Cats.
Basically, the success of this play led Edward away from being a journalist in journalism and led him into working as a publicist for theatrical productions. And his big thing with that was building public interest for not only plays, but also actors and special events.
I just love he's like editing the Review of Reviews.
Yeah.
He's like,
the MMR.
The one thing that this doesn't have that I really want is a good educational story about STDs. Like, it's such a weird jump. Like, I get it's medical, but it is like a...
Yeah.
I just picture him working there, just basically copy and pasting things from other magazines and then being like...
Sure,
I dream of my play.
Yeah. I want to copy and paste this French play onto a stage. Because it's a translation of a French play.
Oh,
really?
It already existed.
Yeah, no, I didn't. He didn't write it. No, I didn't say he stole it.
misunderstood
No, I
that.
didn't say he stole it. Someone translated it from French into English. I'm sorry I didn't make that clear earlier.
Got it.
Someone in I think in the UK translated this French play, which the French actually had regularly plays about this type of thing. This is a lot like when you see those World War II films about like when you're on when you're on a shore leave, like watch out for these signs of like, blah, blah, like, hey, it hurts, it burns when I pee. Like that type of film.
He was
He made the play version of that.
he was the producers before the play The Producers.
Except he wasn't trying to fail.
Yeah.
He was purposely, he wanted to spread the message that syphilis might not be your fault. And again, the point of the play, if we stop being weird about syphilis, we might actually be able to treat it, because the best way, much like when dealing with drug addiction or dealing with anything else, how we dealt with the AIDS crisis and all these other things, if you have a stigma around it, then no one is going to seek treatment.
Yeah.
Right.
As long as there's a stigma, then why George DuPont did not take his treatment because he didn't want the stigma, and now not only his wife but also his child have syphilis.
And he didn't tell them because he didn't want to.
He didn't want them to know.
The stigma
Yeah.
and-
So that's the whole point. That
Right.
the point of the play was, and that's what he thought. That's what Edward L Bernays thought was so important.
Yeah.
Now, one thing I do want to say, his name. He tells everyone his name is Edward L Bernays. His name is actually just Edward Bernays. L is not on his birth certificate.
So where did it come from?
He wanted his name to seem bigger because he's only 5'4". I just wanted to throw that in there. It was weirdly in a biography,
Okay.
and I just wanted to.
Do you know what religion he was?
He was Jewish, just like Sigmund Freud.
Okay.
Yep. So the success of this play, like I said, he now gets into publicizing, becoming a publicist for theatrical productions. He does some like pretty zany things for some other plays and for some actors that come into town. There's this one play called Daddy Longlegs that's about an orphan who gets put through college. It's not weird, all right?
Okay.
You both are giving me a look like it's weird. It's just about like, hey, we should support orphans. So he makes sure that in the newspapers at the time, there are more positive stories about how we should help orphans, and then ties that in with the play.
Is it kind of like what's the movie? Annie?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Annie.
kind of.
Okay.
Yeah, kind of. Except the person in this play never knows who's giving them the money.
Oh, there's no Daddy Warbucks.
Okay.
That's why it's Daddy Longlegs. And what he does
It
is
sounds somewhat like they're
There was a big
related.
orphan population.
Yeah,
there was a much bigger orphan population back
There's a
then.
lot of shows about orphans. There's just so many orphans.
That's true.
But the whole point of this play was that basically the young woman who was getting put through college out of the straight from out of the orphanage, she writes a letter. That's all. She's never going to find out who's supporting her. But the only way she has to make repayment is every month she has to write a letter to whoever this guy is.
Yeah.
And so the play is each month her reading the letter of what happened.
Okay.
And it's her comparing of like my life in the orphanage versus being outside.
Right.
And so again, it's a social thing. It's kind of what he's building there.
That's a pretty weird request. I need to say that out loud.
What?
Like if you're sponsoring someone
Yeah.
to go like pay for their college and you're going to put them through school and you're like, I'm going to give you everything you need. I'm going to pay for your books.
But don't you remember?
But every week you have to write a letter.
But don't you? It was every month.
Every
first thing.
month.
But don't you remember back in the day? Remember that one lady who'd be like, for 15 cents a day, you could feed children in Africa.
Yeah.
One of the selling points of that was every month you were going to get a letter from those starving kids.
Oh, I didn't realize that. That's
Yeah,
so
that was one of the
strange.
things. Was like, yeah, that way you would keep giving money because
Yeah.
you know it was connected to someone, and it would be mailed to you. You
It's
weren't
just-
going to know the kid directly,
It's
and
just
you're getting like
grant-
their picture.
It's just grant reporting.
Also,
It is.
on like the real world, where at the end of a scene, sometimes they will stand in front of the camera and tell you what happened, even though you were watching it.
Yeah, got it.
Yeah, same general idea. The other, and so he did that play and some others.
But he also, I want to say, he manipulated the news media.
Yes.
To like further the play.
Yes.
Okay.
The other thing he did was there was a famous actress that came to town. He like had her picture taken provocatively while she's holding a snake in a zoo. Very phallic snake. And then there was a singer, and he placed a lot of stories in the newspapers about how this guy's voice had to be protected and all the crazy precautions he had to take. Wrapping his throat. He doesn't speak for a week before performances. He only drinks a specific type of tea. It was all bullshit.
It's starting to sound like P.T. Barnum.
It is, but it's also he knows how to drop these into the public consciousness. So that way, like when you see the singer, like, yeah, the singer's good. Like we're not saying the singer isn't good, but he's making the singer extra special.
Yeah.
And then also telling you, like, he's not going to sing that many. Right. So you better get the ticket now.
You'll never believe what this singer has to do to prepare for a show. It's clickbait.
Yeah,
he's just doing clickbait.
He's doing clickbait super early.
Right.
Edward begins to make a pretty big name for himself in the world of theater promotion. And that's from 1913 all the way until 1917 when the United States entered World War I. Edward was 26, and he joined the Committee on Public Information.
Okay.
So the Committee on Public Information was established by the Woodrow Wilson administration through executive order to coordinate, as its chairman, George Creel, stated, quote, not propaganda as the Germans defined it, but propaganda in the true sense of the word, meaning the propagation of faith.
Okay.
Yeah, so
how did
basically
the Germans define it?
Well, basically, a lot of people at this time were just kind of like the science of propaganda, if you will, was starting to really start up because there's, as we've covered on this podcast and through when you start reading about stuff, especially from like the 1870s through basically World War II, there's a lot of new sciences being formed and new ideas, and using the scientific method is becoming more common.
Right.
And as that happens, there's a weirdness about it because when we look at it now, we're like, that's fucking crazy.
Yeah.
The Germans were like, here's how we can get a nation out of no nation. Because remember, before World War II, it's like the 1870s, Germany was a bunch of tiny little countries.
Sure.
And they weren't one under a single Kaiser or any of that different stuff. They used it to solidify themselves as a nation out of these tiny little states. So they brought themselves together, and when outside powers were looking at it, they're like, that's weird, that's gross. But see, all these other outside powers had used like years of ethnic cleansing to make themselves into one of these nations.
They're like, oh, you're going to use marketing?
Yeah, basically. And that's basically what the Germans did. But now some of that marketing, though, from outside viewers, pre-World War I, they're like, that's kind of crazy. That's weird. And people were starting to see what you can do using Bismarckian theory, which is taking two groups that hate each other and giving them a third party to hate. And suddenly, hey, the two of us, oh, I wear a red shirt, you wear a blue shirt. Oh, we hate each other. We hate each other.
We both hate the Cowboys.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Yeah, the Dallas Cowboys.
Of course,
to
the
be
Dallas
clear.
Cowboys.
I want to be
Yeah,
clear.
Yeah, it was the Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah.
I think, I guess all of your listeners aren't from Philadelphia.
Yeah. So this is kind of what he means. And also George Creel, the chairman, is doing propaganda in this statement. He's like, yeah, the Germans do propaganda.
Right.
This, on paper, this sounds similar. But we're doing propagation.
It's different. We're doing it different.
Yeah, we're doing it in English.
We're doing proper propaganda.
So the I'm going to call it the CPI, but that's the Committee on Public Information. The CPI under George Creel set up propaganda efforts across the United States. Pamphlets, books, posters, newspaper releases, magazine advertisement, films, school campaigns. And they also did this thing called the 4-Minute Men, which were these short 4-minute speeches that happened all across America. The CPI trained thousands of volunteer speakers in basically every language that they knew was being spoken in America at the time. And these people would get up and make patriotic appeals during the 4-minute breaks it took to change reels in a movie theater.
That's so annoying.
Wait, okay.
So when you're watching movies back in the day,
you had, I know the 4-minute, but so they would just like
stand up.
They would they would stand up, but this was a regular thing in theaters.
Yeah.
That like someone would get up and sing a song, or somebody would do a Shakespeare sonnet or something.
Like paid. Like the theater paid them to do the thing.
Well,
or
the theater set aside time,
Got it.
and then people could go do whatever. A lot of times it was vaudeville acts and things like that back in the day.
You
but
run
when
your type 5.
yeah, but when you were going from reel to reel, when you were switching between the movies that you were showing, or even still showing the same movie.
Right.
Because sometimes the movie would be on multiple reels.
Right, of course.
Yeah.
They had to, when it finished, I now have to go rewind the entire film and then take that off, put the new one in, make sure it's tied in properly, time it all together, get
Right.
the music set up, because the music is separate, all those different things.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
I was picturing it way more annoying, like when recently there was a video from that Pink concert, the singer Pink, and some guy stood up in the middle of her concert and started screaming about circumcisions. And he went on like a 5-minute rant about circumcisions
During her set?
But like it was like there was a quick lull in the Pink concert, which is notoriously like a really extravagant concert.
Yeah.
And he just started screaming, and she just kind of looked at him and was like, "What are you talking? What do I know about that? What do you mean?"
Yeah.
And like that, I was picturing myself like I'm at the movies. I've gone to see Barbie for the 3rd time, and some man
Legit.
just stands up and starts talking
Yeah.
during this moment of break when we all just want to go pee.
Yeah. Well, this was more of the...
But it sounds like it was something that people were used
No,
to.
this was a regular thing
Yeah.
that would happen. So instead of the intermission of let's all go to the movies and that type of deal,
Yeah.
the intermission was someone's going to get up and they're going to sing a song, they're going to give a small speech, they're going to do a little act, and they looked around and they said, this is basically a commercial break.
Yeah.
And the CPI was like, for 4 minutes, you're going to get up and you're going to talk about rah, how we need you to buy war bonds and you need to do this and these things. And we're all in it together. And like I said, they made sure that this was given in every language for all the disparate ethnic groups. So in the Italian neighborhoods, there are guys getting up and giving in Italian. We're giving in all the different languages all across. And Creel later boasted that in 18 months, his 75,000 volunteer 4-Minute Men delivered over 7.5 million orations to over 300 million listeners.
Wow.
At the time, there were only 103 million people in the United States.
Why were they volunteer? They couldn't be paid?
It was a volunteer organization.
They
This-
just wanted to do it for the patriotism?
Yes.
God,
Yes.
they really got sold.
No, they really did.
It's almost like this guy was really good at convincing people.
I
of things.
guess so.
It was almost as if he was propagating faith.
Wow.
So Edward Bernays, he focused on businesses working in Latin America.
Okay.
He wanted to keep them building support for World War I. And it was generally like, make sure you're still making your shipments on time and those different things, because before, running up into this point, and even after this, for the rest of our lives, the United States is still like controlling a lot of the Latin American businesses.
Sure.
And things like that. And we're going to touch back on this later. However, Bernays did refer to this work that he did during World War I as, quote, psychological warfare. So, like, he knows what he's doing.
Sure.
he
Psychological warfare on the businesses?
of
No.
of Latin American
Yeah.
nations.
Yeah.
Oh.
But also like the psychological warfare of building a war effort in your own country. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah, no, but he specifically what he was doing.
Oh, I see.
He was building psychological warfare to make sure that, like, they're not serving. I don't know if they have rubber. I don't think they have rubber tree plants down there, but like the raw materials in Panama
Sure.
will not be sold to the Germans.
Oh, right.
You only want to sell to America
Right.
and the Allies. You don't want to ship oranges or whatever
Right,
to
right,
these.
right.
Don't ship it to this place so then they can end up in these guys' arms. That's what he's doing at the time. Remember, the other thing to remember about World War I, which we mentioned before in prior episodes, the United States enters it very late, like damn near the end.
Yeah. That's what we do.
We came in. We
show
came
up
in
at the end.
We showed up and we went, fuck yeah. And then the World War I was already kind of on its way out. Over the the United States' short involvement in the war, public perception of the CPI started to turn. At the beginning, people were very for it. Eventually, though, people were like, this is kind of weird. I feel like, 2 months into having propaganda, telling you to make sure you're being patriotic. Okay. But by like month 9, month 12, you're kind of like, this is kind of weird.
Yeah.
Including one Pennsylvania senator referred to the Committee on Public Information as, quote, the Committee of Public Misinformation.
Whoa.
Got him.
Got him.
Dang.
Got him.
Damn, can you imagine? He probably never came back from that.
No.
No. In fact, so much so that
Random.
committee work was curtailed after July 1st,
Oh,
1918.
shit, dude.
Domestic activities stopped in the Americas after the armistice was signed on November 11th, 1918. And Bernays was part of a scandal because he was part of a 16-person team of CPI members who were sent to Paris. And Edward stated in a press release that the CPI members, quote, announced objective of the expedition is to interpret the work of the peace conference by keeping up a worldwide propaganda to disseminate American accomplishments and ideals. And everyone was like, you're doing what, bro? You're there to do propaganda? The shit the dudes we just beat used to love to do? That's fucking weird. That's fucking weird, Edward. Hey, Edward, what religion are you? And he's like, whoa, Zoidberg away.
Yeah.
The foreign operations ended shortly after that on June 30th, 1919. And Woodrow Wilson himself abolished the CPI by Executive Order 3154 on August 21st, 1919.
Was it just abolished on paper for the public?
Oh, no, it was actually formally abolished.
Oh, all right.
Bernays later described a realization that he had, though, while he was working for the CPI, which is that everything that he just did during wartime, you could do during peacetime.
Right, of course.
Yeah.
But most places were like, hey, once that's done, we're done. Like, that's a war thing.
Yeah.
And he was like, no.
Marketing is life, he said.
That's basically it. He said, quote, there was one basic lesson I learned in the CPI, that efforts comparable to those applied by the CPI to affect the attitudes of the enemy, of neutrals, and people of this country could be applied with equal facility to peacetime pursuits. In other words, what could be done for a nation at war could be done for organizations and people in a nation at peace.
Yeah.
Wow.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool guy.
I'm concerned.
You're concerned?
I could. It seems like he's really good at it.
Yeah.
And I feel like he might be able to wield this power in a way that could hurt people.
In 1919, Edward returns to the United
He didn't say
States.
no, did he?
And he opens, he calls himself the nation's first public relations council.
Okay.
And he opens the Edward L Bernays Council on Public Relations. He officially becomes a consultant.
Okay.
He's a
Council,
PR consultant.
COUNSEL?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
But here's the thing. He wasn't alone in this venture. A childhood friend of his was with him and became the first employee of the Edward L. Bernays Council on Public Relations. That person's name was Doris Fleischman.
What? That name is familiar.
It's the Fleischman Museum.
Yeah,
right?
no relation.
Okay.
I did look it up.
Okay.
No relation. Doris Fleischman and Edward go way back from, they grew up in the same neighborhood. They were close friends. I think that they just had like a lot to, back and forth. They just kept being in and out of each other's lives. In 1922, Edward Bernays and Doris Fleischman married.
Okay.
Oh.
Immediately after the wedding, Doris Fleischman signed into the Waldorf Astoria Hotel using her maiden name.
Immediately after?
Yep. They literally got married and they were staying that evening in the hotel, and they both had to sign the hotel book. And he signed Edward L. Bernays and she signed Doris Fleischman.
Okay.
This was considered so unusual at the time that it was headlines in newspapers the next morning. Because
the next morning.
that's
Wait,
not
who was
normal.
reading this?
The
hotel staff?
Yeah.
Yeah. They were
Like,
just like,
some
that's
bellboy
weird.
was like, didn't they just get married?
Yeah.
I gotta tell someone.
Yeah, she's still using her maiden name, though. She's not going by Doris Bernays. She's going by Doris Fleischman.
Okay.
They then traveled to Europe, and before doing so, Doris had a passport issued under her maiden name again, Doris Fleischman. She is the first American woman in history to be married and have her maiden name printed on a passport.
I mean, it's branding. They both understood branding.
Yeah.
And she was like, hey, look, homie, I'm not changing my name. That's my brand. And he was like, respect. I respect that.
Also, did he not leak the story? Do we know? Like, he wasn't using it as like all press is good press, right?
Fleischman was an avid feminist, and she later became an active member of the Lucy Stone League, which empowered women and urged them to keep their maiden names after marriage. After their marriage, Fleischman was an equal partner in the firm.
Nice.
Immediately. And it should be noted that all of Edward's accomplishments are hand in hand with Doris's.
Okay.
They were partners, and they worked on every project together.
Okay.
Neither of them did anything separate.
Okay.
They both had equal say. Fleischman was a trained and dedicated journalist and a writer, often writing the firm's press releases, speeches, and correspondence.
Did he also like give her credit?
Yes.
Like, okay, that's
Yes,
awesome.
regularly. I mean, to the extent that they could at the time.
Right, sure.
Yeah.
Because there were certain ways that it wasn't recognized. The two had 2 daughters together, Doris Bernays, born in 1929, and Anne Bernays, born in 1930. So with that, we're going to take a break. And when we come back, we're going to talk about the public relations campaigns that Doris and Edward do together. I will state, once again, these are both of them, but historically it is looked at as Edward's.
Yeah.
Okay.
And for the most part, as I was reading things, I couldn't find particularly the exact thing she did, because he always had the title of like public relations director or
Right,
consultant. And meanwhile, she could be on the side like being the one actually writing everything, but he's the
Right.
one in the meetings.
Right.
He's the one shaking the hands and signing the contracts. So with that, we're going to take a quick break. If you are not a Patreon member, then you are going to hear commercials. If you are a Patreon member, you're just going to hear us a lot faster.
Ayo.
And we're back here again with His Name Was Dusk and Mrs. Pearlmania. We were just talking about Doris and Edward. Edward Bernays and Doris Fleischman. And yeah, we're now going to get into the public relations campaigns that they did through their public relations council.
Okay.
Okay, you guys excited?
They're consultants.
They're consultants. But
Yeah.
yeah, so basically for all of these companies, they aren't direct employees. They're brought in for specific campaigns, for specific purposes. And one thing to keep in mind is that Edward Bernays is the nephew of Sigmund Freud.
Yeah.
So not only is he really good at public relations, really good at publicizing things, doing those things, he also is regularly reading the works of his uncle.
And just like psychological magazines probably in general because of that.
Yeah.
But also specifically what his uncle, and his uncle at the time is writing groundbreaking work about subliminal messaging and
Right,
things like
right.
that. Like, you know, what are subconscious things. And then he's also starting to look into, you know, crowd dynamics and all these different, and applying scientific theory behind it. In 1920, one of the first projects that Edward does is to promote and publish his uncle Sigmund Freud's new book. The book is Introductory Lectures on Psychoanalysis. Edward sent the royalty money back to his uncle in Vienna, and then he asked Sigmund, hey, why don't you come to America? I can get you some huge publicity work. You could do a speaking lecture tour, and I found American newspapers that will pay you $1,000 a column
Okay.
by doing like a Dear Abby advice column.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like, and he even gave a couple examples of like what the type of
Sure.
title would be. Sigmund Freud turned him down.
Do you have any of the example titles?
I don't have it in front of me. The same
Freud
year.
and Friends. My friend Freud.
No, it was more like it was more stuff about you know, what should a wife do when this thing happens. So it was
When her
again,
husband is like deeply into his mom, what should a wife do? You know.
Yeah.
yeah,
Right.
dress like the mom.
It's easy.
Whoa.
It's easy. Have you not read Freud?
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Okay.
A son should never talk back to his father. This episode's gonna be very funny in 3 months. We're sitting here right now. You get a baby kicking you.
Yeah.
Yep.
I was going to say earlier, and I didn't.
Yeah.
But it is really exciting to be on Pearlmania500 shortly before it becomes Pearlmania501.
Oh, baby.
Oh man. Yeah.
The fans named the baby Pearl Babya.
Yeah.
500.
It's amazing.
Even though I think of him as a little potato, because right now the show is pre-potato,
Yeah.
and then soon the show season 2 will be post-potato.
Post potato.
Yeah. If he has your dad's head shape, he's gonna look a little potato.
Most
You hear that, Mrs. P?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Most
Yeah.
babies look potato. Look like
Little
a potato.
potato.
Yeah, but we'll see. But it depends on how long it stays a
Yeah.
potato
Well,
form.
if he has your hair, he's going to be a sweet potato.
Aww.
Oh.
He better have my hair.
It's really weird being caught off guard by your own voice.
Yeah, it's gotta be. So after the same year that Bernays did the Sigmund Freud book sales,
Right.
he also successfully hosted and promoted the first NAACP convention in Atlanta, Georgia. It was the first campaign because there was no. It was considered successful because there was no violence.
Oh, well. Okay.
The campaign focused on the important contributions of African Americans to whites living in the South, and it was also the first NAACP conference that was held below the Mason-Dixon line.
Okay.
Fleischman was a huge part of this. Among her accomplishments, this is one of the few things that I could really find that was like pulled out.
Yeah.
Like
Of
this
hers.
was of hers. That was specifically hers. Internal client Among her accomplishments were an internal client publication, Contact, which explained the nature and value of public relations to the clients, and securing press coverage for the NAACP convention in Atlanta. This convention in particular was extremely important as the first ever below the Mason-Dixon line. At the conference, Fleischman experienced discrimination and threats of violence based on her gender, but continued to work to have Southern press agents cover the conference, a difficult feat at the time. So she was getting threatened, all these different things, and she just stuck with her guns. I mean, she's a Jewish woman in 1920 in Atlanta promoting a black conference for equal rights.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, it's crazy.
Dangerous.
Yeah. And, this is a very big deal. After this, they move from, doing that, more of a nonprofit type of thing, taking on these type of stuff, and they move more into corporate work.
The private sector.
Okay.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
you so
Get your biz riz right.
yeah. Bizriz?
Bizriz.
Oh my God.
Public relation for your business.
I know, but I just
No. We're
my-
calling it bizriz.
Bizriz.
You made my knee hurt.
Yeah.
That I just aged by years.
Yeah.
The
I was really.
bizriz?
We were talking about public relations this whole time. I was like, you got to find a good place to say riz, which is how my brain works. So.
Yeah.
It's funny that you think it was your knee because what actually happened is your eyebrows just became incredibly poofy.
I got bushy eyebrows now.
Yeah.
I shaved those for a reason. So one of Edwards and the council's first corporate PR campaigns was for it's either I think it's Veneta or Venida hairnets.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
So in the 1920s, the flapper was all the rage.
Yeah.
Do you guys know what a flapper
Yes.
is?
Yes.
With the short hair and the short dresses
And the long necklace that they spin around.
they spin and they dance like this.
Yeah.
Da, 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 da.
They can't see what you're doing.
Oh, that's Star Wars Cantina theme.
Yeah, you're doing this, but you were
I was
also
doing the hand
yeah,
movements.
Alex was moving his hands
And I was
back
kicking.
and forth in front of him.
So
with his hands open.
the problem for a hairnet company,
Oh, this-
hairnet
okay,
company?
hairnet company.
Veneta hairnets,
Big problems.
the problem with flappers is they all have short hair.
Yeah, they like the short hair. There's a whole thing.
So you don't need a hairnet when you have short hair.
Oh.
Yeah. So that's a problem for hairnets.
Big
So-
hairnets
so-
shaking in their boots.
So Veneta hired Bernays, and Bernays, and they're like, "How are we going to sell more hairnets?" And he looked around and he said, "Oh, I got an idea. Tell people that short hair is for boys." And so that's what he did. He advised a campaign against short hair,
Oh my God.
getting prominent women to speak out about how they loved having long hair and how it made them feel more feminine. He also influenced articles on the danger of unbound hair in factories and in food processing plants, both from a safety and hygiene perspective.
Yeah.
This led to local governments across the United States passing hairnet requirements for certain jobs. In the hairnet, the hairnet campaign, we're already seeing the beginning of his techniques of shaping the idea of public consciousness.
Yeah.
So I just want to give Mrs. P. I want to give you a minute there.
No, you know what I was thinking is my solution was to be like, if I'm trying to sell it to gals with shorter hair, you make it something that you're sleeping in, because a lot of times they had like what are called like finger waves and stuff, and so you would use like curlers and clips to create that wave.
Oh, see,
and then you
yeah.
put the net on and you go to sleep. You're still selling the net,
so okay.
so you
That's-
could have worked with it, but instead,
No, but see, you also would have had to tweak the net a little bit.
Yeah.
And the one thing you're going to see from almost every one of these PR campaigns,
yeah, we're not making any changes.
that's 100% it.
We
Every
have
time these companies,
4 warehouws full of
These
these
fucking
hairnets.
nets, dude.
We need
Every
to sell
time
them.
one of these
why-
companies-
Okay, if hear me out, and I know this is crazy, but like if you or you're losing one market, find a new market. What about all the long hair boys? I'm sitting here surrounded by long hair boys.
There you go.
Men at the time a lot of men didn't have long hair.
They should have started talking
They
about
also-
how cool long haired dudes are.
Also, many men during this time no longer had beards.
Beard nets. Damn.
Right.
I was
And the
gonna
reason
go for beard nets.
Well, and the reason why they didn't have long hair or beards at this point is because
Lice.
of World War One.
Right.
Gas masks.
Actually, probably also lice.
it was
yeah.
probably that too.
But
But you know,
Yeah.
but we have a lot
you
more
could have
campaigns.
just used it as like a fashion statement. It's
Yeah.
like, oh, flappers, wear the hairnet
Yeah, they're
out.
cool.
Yeah, but see,
Just
no,
wear it.
They wanted to make sure, and that you're going to see this a lot, which is we don't want to change our product. We need to change the people.
Right.
And Edward is brought in to change people to match
Right,
the products.
Got it.
Repeatedly. In this, we already see a lot of his classic techniques. A big one is third parties, which is not about influencing the populace. It's about influencing leaders inside of a populace.
Okay.
Quote, if you can influence the leaders, either with or without their conscious cooperation, you automatically influence the group which they sway. So he was already targeting influencers all the way back
Yeah,
then.
because it's like the Veronica Lake situation. You know what I'm talking about?
No.
I feel like it's Veronica Lake.
don't
Veronica Lake was a incredibly famous movie star. She had beautiful, beautiful hair with like a very specific wave pattern. And during the war, women wanted to have this Veronica Lake hair. It was like to their shoulders. It covered one eye. It's like this very specific, beautiful hair. And the thing is, they started doing a whole marketing against this hair because they were saying it was getting caught in the machines because women had gone back to the workforce while the men were away in World War II.
Yeah.
And so when I'm picturing this, is very that Veronica Lake story.
What you're talking about?
But then, real quick, they're saying that they actually had the big producers that owned all the actors back then. They had Veronica Lake go out and do that.
Yeah, because they're following his system.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. No, that's 100% what they're doing. Then the second one is the appeal to medical experts.
Okay.
So when he had these medical experts write articles against hair, like about loose flowing hair in food preparation and in these different, like, hair carries disease, all these different things. So he's peppering this in different publications, and then he's making sure that government people can see this and start to see that there's a swell for it. And then the last one, again, the scientific approach, he is looking at this and he's regularly testing and he's tracking the results of his messaging. So he's not just going on vibes. He's going on like, how is this? We're getting a 13% uptick here. The sales are higher here. We've noticed a swing here. He's keeping track of this. So then he can go back and say, hey, by hiring me, we've increased 27% here. And you've seen your uptick and your more name recognition for your brand specifically.
Oh my God.
Other people didn't do that. When you hired other guys before, they were just marketers or they were advertisers. They came in, you said, I need to sell more Veneta hairnets. And they go, well, how about this? I put a Veneta hairnet on a sexy girl, and we're going to put that in the New Yorker magazine here. Meow. It's going to be right next to all the subway stops. Look at that. We're definitely going to sell things. They're like, okay, how much is that? That's $10,000. And you hand them $10,000. You go, ha, sucker. And that's how they all talked back then.
Right. Whereas this
Like Conan
guy
O'Brien.
actually could tell you, you see how this indicator has gone up? That means your fans are listening.
Yeah. He's like, ha, you're getting more upvotes there on the whatever Reddit was
Right.
back then.
Which is also why so many people now who do any kind of entertainment have to constantly be looking at stats and numbers when they are trying to do anything online.
Oh, you're talking about my life?
This is the
Okay.
guy. Well, look, it's not just you. every single entertainer who has to post stuff online ends up looking at graphs.
And again, it's but this is before this time, people weren't really doing that.
Right.
You're starting to get this somewhat, but he's so successful with some of these early campaigns,
And direct.
people start to copy it more. His next big one is with Procter and Gamble
Oh, okay.
for
Shit.
Ivory soap.
Oh.
Okay.
Okay, let's guess how he's going to market this.
Okay, go ahead. Ivory soap.
Okay, so I'm going to say Ivory soap is very white.
Yes.
It's the white soap.
Pure.
Pureness and whiteness. So I'm already deeply concerned.
Well, I do know. So here's what I know about Ivory soap now, and I know that it is just marketing and
Yeah,
propaganda.
is it that it floats?
No, it is that it is. There's no like additives. There's no like scents and stuff like that. Like it's like your basic soap.
Yeah.
So like irritated skin, sensitive skin, like
Yeah. These are what I remember from
What's
Ivory
that?
soap.
What's that?
Is it that it floats?
You're both right on everything.
Yeah, let's go. We've been advertised to since we were born.
Yeah, no, legit.
Yeah. Aw.
Ivory soap bars are white unscented soaps. Edward Bernays sent out a survey through a medical consultant to hospitals across America, asking, do they prefer white unscented soaps like Ivory soap, or do they prefer colored scented soaps like every other major competitor? Because most other soaps at the time had a color dye to them, so they'd stick out in the marketplace, and a specific scent because people wanted to smell like a scent, not just like nothing. Obviously, the hospitals come back widely supportive in Ivory's favor. This is that 9 out of 10 dentists use Crest. This is that idea.
Yeah.
But it's literally by saying, do you prefer white unscented soap like Ivory or washing your hands in a pile of shit? Like, it's like, like, I mean, obviously that's exaggerated, but they're just saying, like, the way you word those questions. The way you word those questions is just going to really change the answers.
Yeah. The big part with this one is that he takes the survey results and he disseminates them to reporters who publish them on their own.
Okay.
Like, hey, isn't this interesting? Most hospitals really like using soaps like Ivory soap.
So it gets past people's advertisement filters. Oh, wow.
So it's not just a 9 out of 10.
It's not a hashtag
You're reading
ad.
it. Yep. He's using reporters as influencers. Bernays also had Procter & Gamble establish Ivory soap sculpturing contests.
Okay.
Which I think I did as a kid to
that
this
does
day.
Sound familiar to me as well.
Where you get a bar of Ivory soap because it's very easy to whittle.
Yeah.
And you would whittle a little soap sculpture, and it was for millions of children to participate in, and they would actually have true artists and reporters like judge them, and there were actual prizes. And this again made kids think, when I think soap, I think of a white bar of soap.
Right.
The only one that's white like this is Ivory. It has a specific smell. Ivory's giving away. Remember, the soap's like 5 cents, so they're giving away the bars of soap so you can enter the contest.
Right.
All these different things. And lastly, to promote that it floats,
I was right. Yeah.
Ivory also sponsored a soap boat race in a Central Park pond.
A soap boat.
Yep. So you would make a boat and with a little sail in it out of the soap, and then you'd blow it or whatever to try to get it across the other side of the pond.
But then the soap is going to get into the pond.
Nobody gives a fuck about that. It floats.
What about the animals and the fish and the ducks and stuff?
This is 1924. This is 1924.
Yeah.
Nobody fucking gives a shit about them ducks.
Also, they probably had oil and stuff on them from the
honestly, it's probably
spills and
better
whatnot, so
for what was going on.
Industrial
Just
Revolution
sewage
stuff
in there.
still on them.
Yeah.
So those are two major ones for him early on.
And now we just use soap in our current day as a sidebar for TikToks where people slice soap into little cubes so you can keep your attention.
You gotta scrape them.
Oh, yeah.
Scrape
You
'em.
gotta cut it into little cubes and then scrape it. It's the only way I can watch a video.
Yeah. So in 1924, Edward entered into the political arena,
Oh, good.
setting up a vaudeville pancake breakfast for Calvin Coolidge, the president at the time. This was a big deal because Calvin Coolidge was famously like a very dour man.
Okay.
Like that's the best way to describe him.
Sure.
He was just a bit of a grump.
He liked his cat.
Okay.
He was famous for, you'd always see this, I think it was a Persian cat.
Okay.
He would always be holding a Persian cat. He had like one of those weird, like, not straw hats, but like those 1920s, like strip of straw hats. And he just never smiled.
And they looked at him and were like, pancakes. We got to get this guy in front of pancakes.
No, that was the whole thing. It wasn't just pancakes. It was also that he was with the most famous vaudeville entertainers at the White House having a pancake breakfast.
Right.
So
entertainers included Al Jolson, Raymond Hitchcock, and the Dolly sisters, and they all performed on the White House lawn. The event was widely reported by all American newspapers, and the New York Times ran the headline, quote, "President nearly laughs."
Like picturing it is so funny because I just picture this man standing on the White House lawn, like old timey man,
in a suit,
holding a cat,
in a suit,
petting his cat, and
in a straw hat.
In a straw hat, and just vaudeville performers on unicycles with horses and ladies.
Go ahead and pull up Calvin Coolidge.
Hold on.
Yeah.
But like just like circling around him, having the best time while everybody's watching, eating pancakes, just having the best. And like Eeyore hanging out with Winnie Pooh and them. Just like, Mom, it seems like it's a nice day for good weather. And he's like, he almost smiled.
The idea of a man in a straw hat
This is
being
him. This is Calvin Coolidge.
like being a guy that is dour, is so funny this day and age.
Yeah.
Because like if you wear a straw hat now, you're kind of a weirdo. Like, what are you doing? Like, okay, don't get me wrong, on the beach. But as the president, like, imagine if a president now was known for wearing a straw hat.
I just
like,
picture the hat from
No, it's like those. It's not a straw like a farmer's hat.
it's like a fedora, but made of straw, or like a Panama hat.
Yeah. But yeah, so that's just kind of like that was one of the
But he
things.
got him good press, is what
Did
we're
this
hearing.
become like the correspondence dinner?
No,
Very
no,
similar sound.
But this is considered one of the first major like promotional events for a presidential campaign. This like doing something like this specifically to pop a rating.
Right.
Yeah.
Like this wasn't really done like this.
Were they making fun of him?
Kind of.
Okay.
But also like Calvin Coolidge is letting them make fun of him.
Yeah.
So by doing that, it's adding another
Right.
it's adding
It's
another
like-
level.
Like
A
Nixon
president
on
that knows how
Lovin'
to
or
take
whatever,
a
like,
joke.
Yeah.
Love it.
Okay, so now we're gonna get into 1927, and now this is his most famous thing, okay, and what that is. Oh, why did I not
What are
want to
you
do that
doing?
thing? I was just trying
Can
to. Bring
you
this
focus
up.
on
I
your
was trying to
job?
Bring it up. There we
Your
go.
job is to read us the things.
All right.
There we go.
Oh my God.
All right, I don't know why that's not wanting to tighten itself. It's being weird. In 1927, Bernays did a campaign for Chesterfield cigarettes.
Okay.
Okay. All right. I know what those look like.
And see, the thing is the Chesterfield cigarette campaign was so good that it made their competitor Lucky Strike feel really fucking bad,
Yeah.
like total shit,
Okay.
and made them like a laughing stock.
Okay.
Because they took a Chesterfield slogan and like turned it on its head and then like mocked them with it. And Lucky Strike's parent company like looked at this and said, all right, who the fuck did that?
Yeah.
Hire him now.
Yeah. Get
And
him
they
on the books.
did.
Okay.
So the American Tobacco Company immediately hired Edward Bernays in 1928. That same year, there was a new campaign that was being launched by the president of the American Tobacco Company, George Hill. George looked around at the market and realized that they were missing out.
Yeah. They could. Way more people could be smoking. Kids,
children.
babies,
Women.
women should have seen it. Oh.
Yep.
Oh wait. So is the
Women didn't smoke cigarettes back then.
Let me guess. Stress relief, weight loss.
We're getting there. Women weren't smoking at like a huge rate. Like it was an incredibly low rate.
Sure.
Comparatively. And George said, quote, "It will be like opening a gold mine right in our front yard." His first step after bringing in Bernays was to persuade women. Edward was to persuade women to smoke cigarettes instead of eating.
Nailed it.
Yep.
Nailed it.
Yep. Bernays began by promoting the ideal of thinness itself,
Perfect.
using photographers, artists, newspapers, and magazines to promote the special beauty of thin women. Medical authorities were found to promote the choice of cigarettes over sweets, and homemakers were cautioned that keeping cigarettes on hand was a social necessity. So if someone enters your house, you say, I could really go for a cigarette, you're rude to not have one.
Right.
So
And
just
then
by
you just have
having
them in
them-
the house when the propaganda hits.
Yes.
Yeah.
Edward Bernays also decided to attempt to eliminate a social taboo against women smoking in public. So he talked to a psychoanalyst, and the psychoanalyst was like, "Yeah, well, women smoke because they have an oral fixation. You know, it's
Got
all
it.
sexual,
Freud.
and these are
They're
tiny
back.
penises."
Sure.
But because of that, that's being suppressed because of a lack of feminism. Because women, when they do smoke, they only smoke at home. They won't smoke in public.
Sure.
So that's keeping our numbers down.
Yeah.
Because they don't want people to see them smoking and then imagine them sucking a dick.
Oh.
Okay.
A small dick.
Yep. So they started to work on how to get women unsuppressed. Quote, today, the emancipation of women has suppressed many of their feminine desires. More women now do the same work as men do. Many women bear no children. Those who do bear have fewer children. Feminine traits are masked. Cigarettes, which are equated with men, become torches of freedom.
Okay.
And that begins the Torches of Freedom campaign. In 1929, Bernays decided to pay women to smoke their torches of freedom as they walked in the Easter Sunday parade in New York.
As they walked in a parade?
So basically, in the Easter parade, back then was like today we think of the Macy's parade. The Easter parade was actually like the equivalent on the other side. And it was a big event. And not only that, it's a holy event. It's a little bit more, it's less commercialized. It's Easter. And Edward had them stationed along the parade route. And what he did was make sure that people saw these women who were not, they were good looking. And quote, while they should be good looking, they should not look too modelly. And so he handpicked these women.
Girl next door.
He
energy.
handpicked these women. He hired his own photographers and to make sure that good pictures were taken. And then he published them around the world. And it was showing these women who were young, who were, girl next door, attractive, normal looking women.
Right. Didn't look like they had been paid to do this.
Who were just happened to be walking around, happened to be smoking during the event of the season that for common people. This isn't a gala. This isn't a fucking big deal. This is for everybody. And look, these groups of women. So he had these published, and then a feminist named Ruth Hale also called for more women to join in the march, saying, "Women, light another torch of freedom, fight another sex taboo."
Oh my God, I am so like my brain right now is okay because I'm thinking of his wife, known feminist, Fleischman,
Right.
and like knowing how things work, right? Like she is probably like, all right, I got an angle.
Yeah.
Feminism. And his angle is probably like, well, let's tell him to be thin. And she's like, okay, we can do yours.
Sure.
We can do the thin thing. But also,
It's weird.
What if I get my friend Ruth involved?
It's like she got him in a way.
Yeah.
Right? She was like, okay, I think you could really do it with feminism.
Yeah.
And he's like, really? You think? And she's like, oh, yeah.
Yeah, sure.
Push that feminism and then like you'll sell those cigarettes.
Yeah.
Just really make sure you really push the feminism.
We're empowering them. We want to empower
Right.
women. And then, but at the same time, they're still being like, but also, we need you to be as thin as possible.
Right.
So that you look frail and weak compared to men.
Girl power.
Oh, it's incredible.
Girl power.
And it's still affecting us hundreds of years later.
Funny story. Doris Fleischman, avid chain smoker.
Okay.
And
Yeah, perfect.
Edward hated it, and he begged her entire life for her to quit. Just the look on your face right there was priceless. That was a priceless look. But yeah, desperately wanted her to quit his entire life. Was
I
like,
have a
please stop smoking.
I have a completely different view of what happened now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where he
She's
was
just
like,
chain
oh, you're not
smoke-
going to quit, huh? Oh, because I can't tell you. It's feminist to smoke, right?
Yeah.
Oh, I'll show you.
Oh, yeah.
Once the
How
foot,
long have you been without a cigarette? Just as we're doing this?
like I'm near day 150.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like I'm around there. Once the footage was released, the Women's Walk was seen as a protest for equality and sparked discussion about smoking and feminism across the nation.
Sparked.
The
Nice.
targeting of
Nice.
women in tobacco advertising was added in at the same time, and this led to higher rates of smoking among women. In 1923, women only purchased 5% of the cigarettes sold. In 1929, that jumped from 5% to 12%. And in 1935, that jumped to 18.1%. And it finally peaked at its top in 1965 at 33.3%, where it leveled off, which again is 1965. You're getting right near the height of the feminist movement. And it remained at that level until the mid 70s. which only around the mid-'70s do you really start to get the anti-smoking movement coming through.
Right.
Because we started to see the correlation of what the long-term damage was.
We'll get into that.
Okay.
In
Every time he says that and points like that,
I know.
it's not good.
Yeah, in 1928, Edward
The
Bernays...
Great Depression happens.
Almost. Edward Bernays publishes his book, Propaganda.
Okay.
Yep.
He sells the ideas?
He loves publishing books. He loves writing about what he's doing. One thing that he does repeatedly, like during this whole smoking thing, he makes sure that nobody knows directly that he's involved.
Yeah.
Okay.
So when he's hiring the photographers, when he's talking to newspapers, he's doing this through people.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't want them to know at that time it's him.
Yeah.
But then like years later, he's like, guess what I did, fellas?
Right.
Remember how all your wives smoked now? That was me.
Well, to some extent, I feel like it's like the placebo, where if you know that the propaganda guy is involved, you're like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. So as long as you think
But
there's
I think that's what's making me feel so strange about him writing a book about propaganda.
But it's after the fact.
I know.
Well,
it's just so
but
funny.
also to remind
it's
you-
like OJ's book.
If
like
I did
if
it.
I
Oh
would have
my
done, if
God.
I did it.
no,
this is
propaganda
how.
came out as he was doing it.
That's crazy.
Because this book wasn't marketed though towards common people who would read it. This
Yeah.
book was being marketed at educated professionals, so that way, and people in colleges, professors, and people in the business world, so they would know to fucking hire him.
Right.
Okay, so
The
more
book itself,
advertising
his
for
book
him.
about propaganda is propaganda about hiring him
Right.
to make propaganda for you.
Right.
Oh
and
my
at the
God.
same time, like think about it like a guy who gets really into crypto.
Oh no.
Yeah.
The guy gets really into crypto, and maybe he's making a lot of money, but he also wants everyone else to
So he
know
starts
he's
an
making a lot
Instagram
of money.
account where
So
he talks
has-
about crypto all the time.
But he also has to get other people into crypto.
So he starts a podcast to talk
Right.
about crypto.
Exactly.
So this quote, it's long, but I find it very interesting.
Okay.
So I'm going to read you the full quote. Again, it's long. The conscious and intelligent manipulation of the organized habits and opinions of the masses is an important element in a democratic society. Yep.
Okay.
You both yawned at the
I'm
same
sorry.
time.
I don't. Whew.
Well, I closed my eyes to actually listen to the thing.
Yeah.
That was maybe a little bit of a mistake because it was a lot longer.
That's the first sentence. There's so many
all
more
right.
sentences.
Can we,
Oh,
start?
God.
Please start over.
Okay. The conscious and intelligent manipulation of the organized habits and opinions of the masses is an important element in democratic society. Those who manipulate this unseen mechanism of society constitute an invisible government, which is the true ruling power of our country. We are governed. Our minds are molded, our tastes form, our ideas suggested, largely by men we have never heard of. This is a logical result of the way which our democratic society is organized. Vast numbers of human beings must cooperate in this manner if they are to live together as a smoothly functioning society. In almost every act of our daily lives, whether in the sphere of politics or business, in our social conduct or our ethical thinking, we are dominated by the relatively small number of persons who understand the mental processes and social patterns of the masses. It is they who pull the wires which control the public mind.
Yeah. Okay.
He basically was like, bitch, there's algorithms out there, and if you ain't running the algorithm, you're getting run.
Yeah.
He recognized that early on. He also, in both this work and other works, he talks a lot about how it's not a matter of making the masses and the individual worry about the gray. He wants you just to rubber stamp things. Do you like war? Yes, no.
Yeah.
Do you like using chemical weapons in war? Yes, no.
Right.
Do you like... He doesn't want you to think, and this is how you manipulate a crowd. You get them to just rubber stamping certain things so they're not actually processing it from a perspective that you aren't already controlling.
Right. And you get them into a rhythm of rubber stamping things you're saying, and then
Yes, no.
Good,
yes,
bad.
two or
no.
three
Good,
of
bad,
the
good, bad.
questions become like you would have thought about it a little more, but you didn't because of the rhythm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the old, when did you stop beating your wife?
Yeah.
It's that kind of general trap type of question deal. Yesterday.
Whoa.
In 1929, Bernays was involved in promoting Light's Golden Jubilee.
Light?
Light. Yep. This was the 50th anniversary of Thomas Edison's invention of the light bulb.
Okay.
Well,
Yep.
when he allegedly invented the light bulb.
Yeah, no, it was actually invented by Joseph Swan at the same exact time. The publicity. Okay,
Allegedly.
I just said it.
I
don't
know.
why
It didn't have the guitar.
That's fair.
The publicity elements that he used in this included special issuances of U.S. postage stamps showing
Okay.
Edison creating the light bulb itself, and other things like that.
Yeah.
Wasn't as big. Like they were there, but like this was an
I
addition
am
on it.
obsessed with the fact that the stamp propaganda,
Yeah,
because it's something I've always noticed. I love a Christmas stamp.
yeah.
I pick it every year. I'm like, oh, I can't wait to see what my Christmas stamp's going to be this year. And I always so I start looking, and there's always like these weird stamps
Yes.
that are stamp propaganda.
Yeah.
Like clearly like somebody's paid for this. The
Yeah.
government's taking some type of money for this. But there has been Nancy Reagan stamps for sale on the United States Postal Service website for like 2 years. Like nobody's offloading these Nancy Reagan stamps.
Yeah.
And every time I see them online, I laugh a little at that fucking bitch. That her stamps won't sell. And I spit on her.
Oh, I forgot to mention, by the way,
That I hate Nancy
Actually, they're
Reagan.
probably self-adhesive. You don't need to.
No, if there's one thing Nancy Reagan knows how to do.
The other part of the Jubilee, the Lights Golden Jubilee, was that Bernays had Edison himself recreate himself creating the light bulb
Okay.
for a nationwide radio audience. So they did like a fake radio play that people could listen to, like, and then I added this gas and we put the filament in and it lit, and oh, look at it burn, that type of shit.
Yeah.
They then they did another version of this years later when they reached the 100th anniversary of it. In fact, we're actually coming up on the 150th anniversary of this in 2029.
Okay.
Nobody gives a shit.
No, because we all know that he kind of stole that whole thing.
Yeah, but also like what's weird as I'm going through this is
We also don't use stamps.
There's also a lot of things that we have email now.
Yeah.
I like to send Christmas cards.
Yeah. I have these Nancy Reagan stamps that have nothing
I'm trying
to
to
do with.
offload these.
Yeah, I just keep getting them stuck to my dick.
Oh.
But there's all these different things like George Washington's the anniversary of George Washington's inauguration, like during this like the 150th anniversary.
Sure.
Like that's tied in. There's certain things that we used to be like, oh, that was just so and so years ago, and now like for us, I feel like once it gets over like 100, 150 years, we're like, fuck it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, you need to be at a round number. It's
I
like
think
if you're
so, but
if you're once you're beyond 200,
Yeah.
it needs to get to 300 because I do not care
About 250?
Okay, 25 years. Everyone's like, oh my God, it's been 25 years since Saved by the Bell. And then like 50 years. Oh my God, 50 years. 100 years. 150, okay. 200, wow. 250, like, all right, get out of here.
I feel like at 250, nobody cares about Saved by the Bell anymore.
That's so true.
Yeah.
Screech has been dead. You know that?
I know.
Yeah. Well,
I forget. I just remembered now.
He was
I wonder
the
how Lisa
worst,
Turtle's
though.
doing.
No, Lisa Turtle was the worst. She went
You
like
thought
crazy.
Lisa Turtle? She
No.
did?
No,
She
like
went-
like post. She went like
She
nuts.
went crazy. Dustin Diamond is
Well, he was a monster.
was a monster.
bananas.
Yeah, he was at the end. All right.
Zach
I don't know
Morris
what-
seems okay, I think. I
Yeah.
don't know.
Not the character.
No, the guy that played
Mark
Zach Morris.
Something or other.
He seems cool.
I wanted to say Ruffalo, and I know that's not right.
Definitely not Mark Ruffalo.
You know what's funny? I think out of everything that we recorded in the can,
Mm-hmm.
this conversation right here is going to get the most interaction in all the comment sections.
yeah.
From people being like, "No, listen, the Zach Morris guy.
Yeah.
No.
Let me tell you about his politics."
Right.
And I'll be like,
Oh,
"Oh no!"
no.
I feel like there's an anti-vax in there.
Yeah.
Oh, there probably
Right,
is.
right.
Probably.
Yeah, I
you're
think
right.
Dawson went crazy too.
Yeah, well, I mean, you see the
From
size of
Saved
that
by the
guy's
Bell?
head?
Yeah. So real quick, I forgot to mention that book from 1928, Propaganda. Joseph Goebbels was a huge fan of that book.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Huge fan.
Great.
No, that's this.
Let me do
is
some
why-
finger guns at y'all.
He's finger gunning us.
Big fan. This is why I didn't hit the button.
Yeah.
Okay?
Makes sense.
Because the thing is every time he writes a book, like explaining what he's doing, Joseph Goebbels is like, love it. Love it.
Oh my God.
Oh, that's so good.
Big fan.
Wow.
Oh, it's so true.
Yeah.
I don't know. It was like a,
It was a
vamp-
very
it was a
all right
vampire
German.
accent.
Yeah, that's all right. So the Nazis are taking notes, and they're like, "Yeah, man, this Jew's got it."
Oh yeah, I forgot.
Yeah,
I forgot he was Jewish.
he's Sigmund Freud's
I
nephew.
know.
No.
Meanwhile, 1932, Herbert Hoover hires Bernays
Okay.
to help him try to defeat FDR in 1932 in the
Okay.
presidential election. Bernays gives him advice, but like fucking, you can only do so much with PR. Like
Yeah.
there's a certain,
Right. The well was already poisoned.
Yeah,
Yeah.
what we've covered so far, like he does other things that aren't as widely remembered. He works with a lot of nonprofits and societies and organizations to try to just like help people in general. The Committee on Public Methods and Social Work, the Jewish Mental Health Society, Book Publishers Research Institute, the New York Infirmary for Women and Children, and the Committee for Consumer Legislation are just some of the organizations he works with from the mid-1920s through 1934. In 1934, Lucky Strike came back to Bernays.
Okay.
They had an issue.
Oh, all right.
Women were smoking,
Great.
but they weren't smoking Lucky Strikes now.
Oh,
Oh, they wanted something more feminine.
No, see, the problem is that Lucky Strikes packagings, they had ugly boxes.
Yeah.
They were green. They were like a hunter forest green.
Gross.
Okay.
And
they weren't even menthol?
no, yeah. Jesus, it's such inside baseball, but yeah. No, I know they weren't menthol. But even worse is that green was considered an ugly color and actually didn't match women's fashion at the time.
Yeah.
Oh.
The
And-
aesthetics were wrong.
Yeah, they had the wrong aesthetics. And so they brought in
Parliament
Bernays.
lights.
No, they brought in Bernays and they said, Bernays, we just spent $1 million changing all of our branding to this. This is our color. And he's like, well, why don't you just pay $1 million? And he's like, we're not going to. He's like, okay, well, I guess since your brand doesn't match women's fashion, I'll just change women's fashion.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
And so, again, the color green wasn't popular.
What were they wearing?
It just wasn't that. It just didn't fit in the actual
Back
tones
then,
at the time.
like pastel blues and stuff.
Yeah, but not green specifically.
Not green.
So Bernays set back and he was like, I'm going to make Hunter Forest Green pop. And so the centerpiece of his big effort was a thing called the Green Ball, a social event, again, at the Waldorf Astoria.
Sure.
And it was hosted by like a very high up lady. A lot of society women are there, a lot of
I just want to
actresses.
pause real quick. Just because I'm like thinking about Hunter Green and how because it's Hunter Green, you said, right?
Forest Green.
Forest Green. I'm thinking about how forest green in my mind, what that color means, because like when I think of Hunter Green, it's very like British royal. It's the Queen in galoshes. It's where did she stay in Scotland?
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
It's like it's very that like Hunter Green is that, and then like a forest green is very like interior design to me. It's very the walls are Hunter Green. I mean the forest green, like the curtains, and like that's an aesthetic that is very significant of wealth and well-to-do.
So
I feel like it speaks to me of like probably at that time cleaning products and stuff though. Like because it looks like a pine salt, like I don't know.
So what you're talking about with wealth,
Yeah.
this is what makes you
Yep.
think wealth.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I was saying the same way that like looking at Ivory Soap and how His Name Was Dusk and I can both go into like the idea of like we know what we were told about Ivory Soap from propaganda, and like I have inherent, and probably because I as a woman, certain things are marketed to me in a certain way, especially colors and fashion and interior design. So I'm like, okay, when I think of forest green, what was I told about it through media, through socialization, is that it's a color of wealthy people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, yeah, it's true. What he did with this is he did that association heavily. He, again, through agents, he reached out to famous society women. He set up this green ball. He explained to all of them, and they made sure that the woman that he put in charge of the ball told everyone that the only color they could wear is green. So everything had to be green. And then he had newspapers write about green. He had more stores sell things that were green. He made that the fashion, and it was the season of green. Manufacturers and retailers of clothing and accessories were advised that the excitement was growing for the color. Intellectuals were enlisted to give highbrow talks on the theme of green. Before the ball had even taken place, newspapers and magazines that had been encouraged by his office had latched onto the idea that green was all the rage. And by the time this ball was over, not only had women's fashion accepted this color green, but green in general more regularly, that Lucky Strikes no longer clashed with women's clothing.
Yeah, it matched.
Yeah.
Right.
And so then, like, what that looks like today would be an Instagram aesthetic overview picture of like a lipstick, a pair of sunglasses, and like something else where it has all that like aesthetic beigey millennial pink vibe.
Yeah.
And like you would have the pack of Lucky Strikes there
Right,
that is green
right.
because everything else is going to be green.
Yep.
It's that same idea of like it's the aesthetic, it's the whole thing. It's my purse matches my gloves, matches my Lucky Strikes, matches my shoes.
Yep. The next one, now this next one is around while all of this is kind of happening. This next one is one that my entire family fell for.
Oh.
A marketing campaign.
Oh.
And it just happened during the 30s. It was for Dixie cups.
Okay.
Do you know Dixie cups?
I do.
The
Okay.
little cups.
Whatever happened to them?
So in the 1930s, they weren't selling well. They're little paper cups.
Yeah.
My grandmother used to have them in the bathroom.
I was going to say sometimes people have them in the bathroom.
Yeah, specifically in the bathroom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because they are sanitary.
Ah.
Because before that, people just had a cup.
Yes.
Why would I throw out my cup every time I want to use it?
Right.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah. Wasteful.
Yeah, no. Bernays, I bought Dixie cups until I was in like my early 20s.
Really?
Yeah, until I had like roommates who were like, "Why did you still buy those?"
I think I remember being like, why are there Dixie cups in the
Yeah.
bathroom?
And it was
I
just
feel like I remember that.
And it was either you or somebody else in my life who was like, hey, you don't need those,
Yeah.
Like you can just use your hand.
I don't think
for
you
water.
still had them when we were roommates, but
Yeah.
like you were like, oh, for brushing my teeth, and I was like,
Yeah, for
you
the
could
water.
just like literally lean down and
Yeah, no, Dixie cups. A lot of people, they'd have a glass. Some people would have a good glass. They'd like, hey, they'd wash it after each one, just like rinsing the water out, or hey, I'll change it every week, or whatever it is. Dixie cups hired Bernays, and Bernays convinced consumers that only disposable cups were sanitary. And he did that by linking imageries of overflowing regular cups, glasses, and mugs with subliminal imagery of vaginas and venereal diseases.
Wait, what?
oh my god,
So that way, when you would look at a cup overflowing, you would think of like a discharge.
Oh, okay.
And it was linked together, and he used, again, the work of his uncle, Sigmund Freud, along with other analysts, and he put together the imagery in a way that when you would sit there, you wouldn't think about it directly, but you began to have in your mind, hey, well, I don't need Dixie cups. Oh, what if I had a sore throat? And then, make sure I wasn't contaminated by these Dixie cups, then it went away.
yeah,
So it was slowly that idea of like,
Right.
by having these disposable cups. I mean, it's the same thing when you go to the dentist, right? Like you're given a disposable cup. Like they could have just tiny glass or plastic cups
Yeah.
that they throw through a washer.
right,
Like we could easily do that. We do that at restaurants.
Yeah.
right,
Why can't you do that at a dentist's office?
right.
That same general idea. This is what made Dixie. He created a problem for Dixie Cup to answer.
The interesting thing about this for me right now is in the research that I did for the Salvador Dali episode,
Yeah.
there was a lot about him talking about marketing and talking about subliminal marketing because he started doing some advertising stuff, and he was really influenced by Freud as well. So like it's interesting the links with those things.
Yeah,
like,
and actually, in 1938, Sigmund Freud finally flees Austria because Austria was annexed by the Nazis and Germany on March 13th of 1938. An international team of scholars, diplomats, and just general fans and patrons helped Freud escape. Sigmund Freud escaped to London in June 6th of 1938. When he was in London, he was met by Salvador Dali and a bunch of other people who were there, who were all big fans of his. Sigmund Freud died of jaw cancer in September of 1939 in London, and his 4 elderly sisters all died in the Holocaust.
Oh my God.
jeez.
Holy shit.
Yep. At the same time, by the way,
cancer from
smoking.
cigarettes. Yeah.
No, cigars.
Yeah.
The other thing to remember, too, is Freud's books were being burned by the Nazis.
Yeah.
While the Nazis were using Bernays' books that were based on Freud's work.
Right. Right.
So it's like this weird cycle that is insane.
It's also weird that he died from cigars because didn't he have that whole
That whole like it's
sometimes a cigar is just a cigar or whatever.
Yeah. Edward Bernays was the PR director for the 1939-1940 New York World's Fair.
Okay.
Now it's always kind of bugged me because I was looked a little bit more into it because like World's Fairs were big deals.
And then they just stopped.
They just stopped. Now they still actually happen. They are.
Can we go to one?
I want to go.
Yeah, so they're not called World's Fairs are an American term. Internationally, they're just called expos.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
So they
don't
don't
wanna
do
go
them
to
to the
that.
extent that we used to because also, especially here in America,
I went to a cat expo.
well, I was with you. It was weird. It was so sad. It was the saddest expo
Not
I've
like
ever
a
been to.
contest.
No, it was a
People
cat
being
expo.
like, look at my cat.
No, it was like they were like
There's judges.
there was like the
Oh.
fancy cats, you know, those kind.
Sure.
But it was at like the Greater Oaks Convention Center, and it was so
And it was
weird.
next. Here's the thing.
You mean tuxedo cats?
Yeah.
No, hold on. We were in the small side, right? The small part of the convention
Mm-hmm.
center, and there was a cat convention. Next door was the gun show.
Okay.
So you have all these grandmas and cat ladies like carrying their cats with little cat ears on their head and like
Yeah.
being weird
They're
and like, oh,
excited about cats.
and then men carrying more guns than they have arms
Right.
to carry.
Yeah.
I do really love the idea that there is at least one person that was like, damn it, the gun show and the cat expo are the same day. They're in the same building.
How do I choose?
They're
How do
in
I
the same
choose?
building.
I know.
I get to go.
Yeah.
Yeah, sir.
The parking lot was fucking
it was
insane.
so crazy.
Because the parking
Sir,
lot
no
was full
cats.
of like little hatchbacks and sedans, and then the biggest trucks you've ever seen.
Yeah.
And as I was
Cat
standing
ladies
outside
drive
with
some crazy
Alex, who
trucks.
was probably still smoking at the time,
I was.
I was like thinking, I was like, there's something here about pussies and dudes with small dicks. And there's a joke that lives here out front with this cigarette Alex is having.
Yeah. I was getting a lot of. I was standing out front smoking. I was standing because they gave you cat ears when you
Yeah.
came in,
Amazing.
like on a headband.
Yeah.
So like I had them on.
Yeah, they had a QR
And then
code
like
in the ears.
and I was standing outside smoking, wearing cat ears, and like dudes carrying AR-15s were like, "Look at this pussy." I was like, "Yeah,
I get
I'm
it.
literally a cat."
I get it.
Like, what are you talking about?
And you were like, meow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, I had a coworker who was like, when he heard about it, he's like, I want to go. And so he met us there with his girlfriend.
Yeah. Nice.
And then, like, within 20 minutes, I'm like, his face is red. I'm like, what's the matter? He's like, oh, I'm allergic to cats. What are you?
Forgot about
Yeah.
that.
I was like, bro, we got to go. He's like,
gotta
no,
go.
it's fine. I'll take a Benadryl. I'm like, then you're going to fall asleep driving. Like,
Oh
what's
my
happening
God.
here? All right.
Anyway, expos.
Oh, you said the World Fair still happens, and then we sidetracked from
Yeah.
that sidetrack.
No, it happens. It happens around the world. It just hasn't really come back to the United States.
Oh, it
And
doesn't
when
wanna
they
come back.
do, they aren't done to the extent they used to be. So the 1939 World's Fair went fucking hard.
Yeah.
It was the second most expensive American World's Fair of all time.
Okay.
The St. Louis World's Fair, which was to show off the Louisiana Purchase exposition of 1904, that one was more expensive. This one was the first World's Fair, though, to focus on cultural exchanges between nations and peoples over industrialization and science.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, so many countries around the world participated in this, and over 44 million people attended the exhibits over the 2 seasons. So they had one season in 1939, one season in early 1940. It was the first exposition to be based on the future as well, and the slogan was "Dawn of a New Day."
Oh, okay.
And it allowed all the visitors to take a look at the world of tomorrow.
Right.
Flying
that-
cars and such.
Yeah, it was that kind of general idea. Bernays called the fair and the grounds in general the democracy.
Oh.
That was his big thing. It's democracy. And look at all of us, all of our nations and our cultures, and all we're coming together and we're exchanging ideas and peoples. And it was all about like peace. Weirdly difficult to do as the Nazis are crossing Europe and Japan is at war with half the world.
Yeah.
Using your like
Uncles and your books. Yeah. He didn't know. I don't think he quite knew at the time of like how his books directly were influencing Joseph Goebbels. But Grover.
Damn.
Dear Edward, I wrote you, but you still ain't calling.
Please don't wonder why.
Sorry.
Grover Wallen was a public relations innovator who worked alongside Bernays on the project. And Grover saw the fair as an opportunity for corporations to present consumer products rather than just a general exercise in presenting science and the scientific way of thinking as its own.
Yep, I can see where this goes.
Great.
Albert Einstein and other scientists were a little disappointed at this change, but they went alongside of it. Carl Sagan reported, quote, as events transpired, almost no real science was tacked on to the fair's exhibits, despite the scientists' protests and their appeals to high principles. This is when you started to see at the World's Fair things like the RCA Pavilion. Mm-hmm. So, RCA, the radio company. Yeah. RCA, this is when they wanted to show off televisions and to push the idea of televisions to the masses. And that was done in America in 1939 at the RCA Pavilion at the World's Fair. One way they did this was that they did put a Franklin D. Roosevelt speech, and they broadcast that not only over the radio networks, but they also televised it along with other parts of the opening ceremony and other events that were happening at the fair. That day, the opening ceremony and Roosevelt's speech were seen on black and white television sets with 5 to 12-inch tubes. NBC used the event to inaugurate regularly scheduled television broadcasts in New York City over their station that is now called WNBC. And an estimated 1,000 people viewed the Roosevelt telecast on about 200 TV stations scattered throughout New York's metro area.
And that was it's interesting because RCA doing the TV thing, like a TV does seem like a sciencey thing at some point.
Yeah.
But
they want to
selling it as opposed to like,
yeah.
But also, you know what RCA is, right? It's the Radio Corporation of America.
Yeah.
And it's weird to think
that they put themselves out of their own
Yeah.
job.
Well, like that
They bordersed it to Amazon.
It's really hard to remember that TV was seen as an extension
of
radio
yeah.
at first.
Yeah.
It's kind of bizarre because it used to be broadcast like that too.
Yeah. It still is.
Is it?
Yeah, it's just a digital broadcast now that you can still. I mean, we have a digital antenna here. We don't have cable.
Okay.
But I mean, yeah, we're out here in the burbs where you live. Actually, you can get a digital antenna up on your roof, and it's free TV. Yeah. I get like 80 channels.
I just watch everything online anyway.
Okay.
Yeah.
That way, the advertisers know what you watch.
I'm sure that they watch
That's
all
the
of
best
my
part.
pirated stuff. Allegedly.
Oh yeah.
Allegedly. Thank you, me from the past.
You can just say it. It's your voice.
Don't use my words.
The fair generated $48 million in revenue with its 44 to 45 million visitors, but it cost $67 million to put on. It was considered a financial failure, but a marketing bonanza for all of the companies involved. Ford Pavilion, all these different ones. Also, as the war really starts to kick up, you have different nations who sent stuff over and their people over. As the fair ends, can't go home. And they can't
because of the war. Right.
Because of the war, and then they also can't do anything with the stuff. Mm-hmm. So they sell it off.
Okay.
So there's things like there's a statue of like a Polish king in like Central Park. That was because the New York World's Fair happened, and the Polish people were like, I don't know what to do with this. We're not taking it back to Poland for the Nazis or the Russians to have it. Yeah. And then eventually some guys bought it.
This park.
No. What people did was they bought it and they gave the money to the Polish government in exile.
Okay.
So things like that happen repeatedly. So World War II then kicks off. Bernays advises the Office of War Information, as well as the Army and the Navy. He was the chairman of the National Advisory Committee of the Third U.S. War Loan. Which was just, war bonds and war loans, all that stuff. A co-chairman of the Victory Book Campaign and part of the New York State Defense Council.
Is Victory Book bonds?
I think it is. I think it's similar.
It's like when you go to Wendy's and you get the little booklet of coupons for Frosties
coupon
and
book,
Halloween.
Yeah, I think it honestly
Can
might
we
be.
go get one of those right now?
We should. Also, in the 1940s, Edward Bernays started working for the United Fruit Company.
United Fruit Company.
Today, they're called Chiquita Brands International.
I was going to say it's got to be the bananas.
So you're saying he was like, let me get out of the whole war thing.
I got to get out of the war business.
This is so like intense. Let me just work on bananas.
Yeah.
That's fine. That's safe.
Yeah, there's definitely not going to be any wars involved with bananas in Latin American countries.
Of course.
Yeah.
He promoted U.S. banana sales, promoting health benefits of bananas, as well as strategically getting celebrities to be seen eating bananas. Bernays also argued the United Fruit needed to put a positive spin on the banana-growing countries themselves, and for this purpose, he created a front group that was called Middle America Information Bureau.
Right.
So they used Middle America instead of Latin America.
Right.
Because he wanted to remind people, like, hey, this is still America.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe they speak Spanish in these things, but they're just like us.
And he was like, it's okay to eat like 40 bananas a day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly
You
40
should.
and nothing else.
Right.
Yeah.
So the Middle America Information Bureau supplied information to journalists and academics. This is very similar to today when you'll get local news reporters are handed a report that they then just read directly without any edits or any research just to fill time. The Bureau was shut down in 1948. But Bernays, again, stayed on to work on increasing coverage of the communist menace in Guatemala, specifically.
Okay, wait a minute.
Yep.
He was selling bananas.
Yeah, you go for the bananas, you
And then you stay for the communists?
communism.
So the problem is, like, in Guatemala, right? Like the United Fruit Company somehow was making more money than the whole country of Guatemala had.
Yep.
Because the people in Guatemala were like, yo, hey, it feels like all of our wealth is being shipped out of here.
Yep.
Right.
That's not great, United Fruit Company.
Right.
That's now Chiquita Brands International. And so Bernays looked around and he recommended a campaign in which universities, lawyers, and the U.S. government would all condemn expropriation as immoral and illegal, because that's what they wanted to do. They wanted to be like, hey, we want to nationalize this stuff. The company should use media pressure to, quote, to induce the president and the State Department to issue policy pronouncements comparable to the Monroe Doctrine concerning expropriation. So again, don't touch our shit.
Yeah.
And we really should be pressuring both Harry Truman, and eventually Eisenhower.
Yeah.
Hey, we got to stop these commies down there.
Was their plantain campaign.
Wow.
In the following months, the New York Times, the New York Herald Tribune, Time Magazine, Newsweek, and Atlantic Monthly all had published articles describing the threat of communism in Guatemala. A Bernays memo in July 1951 recommended that a wave of media attention should be translated into action by promoting the following. A change in present U.S. ambassadorial and consular representation. B, the imposition of congressional sanctions in this country against government aid to the pro-communist regimes. And C, U.S. government subsidizing of various research by disinterested groups like the Brookings Institution into various phases of the problems. So these are groups that don't really seem like they should be involved with bananas, like the Brookings Institute.
It's not about the bananas.
No, it's about the communism.
It's about the communism trying to take the money away from the banana people.
Yes, 100%. The Brookings Institute still exists today, and they're still bags of shit.
So beyond just PR. Because he goes down for propaganda, the propaganda thing, but it's like even just propaganda. It's like he's recommending actual like political action by a government as opposed to just.
Well, and again, remember, this was, they were like, hey, they want to keep like 10%. We're going to lose 10%. He was, and he's like, all right, we can't lose 10%, so I guess we better kill everybody.
Yeah.
Per Bernays' strategy, United Fruit distributed favorable articles and an anonymous report on Guatemala to every member of Congress and to national opinion molders, again, influencers. They also published a weekly Guatemala newsletter and sent it to 250 journalists, again, who started to use this as a source for their reporting.
Perfect. Don't
And
check
it was
this-
anonymous?
The Guatemala newsletter was not.
Okay.
But the report on Guatemala was.
Okay.
In June of 1954, the CIA effected a coup d'etat codenamed Operation PB Success. The CIA backed a minimal military force fronted by Carlos Armas with psychological warfare campaign to portray the military defeat as a foregone conclusion. During the coup itself, Bernays was the primary supplier of information for the international news wires, Associated Press, United Press International, and international news sources.
PB
success.
Did it stand for anything?
No, I don't, not as far as I think it's just
Because peanut butter and
That's what
bananas
I-
is delicious.
Oh,
Yeah. Peanut butter and bananas.
yeah, it might be.
They're great.
Um,
With little raisins on them. Ants
Yeah.
on a log.
big peanut butter got
Yeah.
involved.
Yeah.
It was like, we need to keep these bananas.
this started off with him being like, people should stop being so weird about syphilis. At the
Yeah.
end, he's like, we gotta fucking.
Oh,
keep
I
these
know.
bananas.
I keep going back to that of like his first thing was like, people really keep
Stigma is bad.
being stigmatized about things.
yeah.
Yeah.
And then he was like, I think I could weaponize that stigma.
After,
I wonder if I could overthrow a government.
after this
Never
was
learned to stop
successful,
dreaming.
after the Guatemala coup and everything was successful, he then did some light work where he compared, did work, like comparing like Christianity and communism and how they weren't the same.
Right.
Because
right.
the other thing to keep in mind is that like in the 1920s, especially, a lot of Christians were leaning more towards communism because it was
Makes
more.
sense.
Because Jesus was all like, we should share our wealth.
Yeah, and he was
help
like,
each
no, that's
other."
not what it's about at all. And so he released a bunch of papers that were like, they don't match. But in fact, this new dictator of Guatemala, he's the most Christian of them all because he's not a communist. That was his whole argument. And it worked. We were like, yay. During the Cold War, which, is through the rest of time until like 1990s. During the Cold War, Bernays advised the United States Information Agency, which was a CIA-backed propaganda organization that was designed to fight communism around the world
Okay.
through propaganda.
Yeah.
And a former USIA director of TV and film service, Alvin Snyder, recalled in his 1995 memoir that, quote, the U.S. government ran a full-service public relations organization, the largest in the world, about the size of the 20 biggest U.S. commercial PR firms combined. Its full-time professional staff of more than 10,000, spread out among some 150 countries, burnished America's image and trashed the Soviet Union 2,500 hours a week with a Tower of Babel comprised of more than 70 languages to the tune of over $2 billion per year.
Wow.
And Edward Bernays was a consultant on that.
And what year was this where it was $2 billion a year?
That was by, it was abolished in 1999.
Okay.
So this was in the 90s.
Okay.
The USIA was abolished by Congress on effective October 1st, 1999. But some parts of the overall agency's services remain,
Yeah,
such
I was
as
going to say, they abolished it on paper.
yeah,
Right.
Voice of America, Radio Free Europe, and Radio Free Asia networks are still out there.
He said this is 99.
Yeah.
Is he older than 100?
So
still working at
Edward
this time?
Edward formally retired in the 1960s.
Okay.
He was pretty rich by that point. He and his wife Doris moved to Cambridge, Massachusetts. They did still light consulting work, and they also had the Edward Bernays Foundation that they were working with at that point. One of the pro bono works he started working on was anti-smoking campaigns in the
Son
late
of a
70s.
bitch.
Late
Come on.
70s, early 80s, he started feeling better.
Fighting his own problems he started.
Yeah,
Well,
that's
it's
why
like-
women's smoking went down.
It's guilt.
That's why I said we'll get to it. It plateaued, and he was like, I guess I'll get back to that.
Well, it's
Oh
like
my
guilt.
God.
Like he was like, God.
Yeah,
This
what have
cancer.
I done?
Edward Bernays' most famous books there's 4 of them: Crystallizing Public Opinion, which he wrote in 1923; Pop Propaganda, which he wrote in 1928; Public Relations, which he wrote in 1945; and the most famous one, The Engineering of Consent, in 1955.
Whoa, all right.
The Engineering of Consent is the one that you'll often hear most yelled at you by hippies who are like, they're just trying to engineer consent, man. It's like, yeah, that's what everybody does. Doris Fleischman, after they retired, she finally took Bernays' name as a hyphen.
Wow.
She was like, when I'm done working, when I'm done getting this bag for our business,
right.
then maybe.
the branding didn't matter anymore.
Yeah, the branding didn't matter.
That's why I said, wait for it. You guys were like, I bet it was branding. And I said, wait for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they did until the 60s. In the 60s, she went by her full name was Doris Elsa Fleischman Bernays. On July 10th, 1980, she passed away at the age of 88.
Okay.
Edward Bernays died in Massachusetts on March 9th, 1995 at the age of 103.
Damn.
Oh, dude.
Yeah.
You listen, we got to go get some ivory soap to bathe in and bananas to eat because we're trying to live.
And some Lucky Strikes.
Yeah. Now
Yeah.
we're no, Alex.
Oh, but I'll use Dixie cups to ash in.
No.
Dixie cups with a little bit of water. Those are actually really good ashtrays.
Did the Dixie cups were they marketed to people below the Mason-Dixon line harder because of the word Dixie?
I don't know, but my son and grandmother was the one who used them. But I remember like all of my grandparents, like whenever I'd go to old person's house, they always had Dixie cups.
I only know one family member that had like the Dixie cups in their bathroom, but they were like the weird cousins that I didn't really like fuck with. And so like I always like we never had those. So I was always just like, why do you have this? Because I come from the school of His Name Was Dusk, and I was like, you just put your head down and drink out of it like a fountain if you need water in your mouth.
Yeah.
I don't understand why you need a cup. But yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. Well, it's just one of those things where
I saw the name Dixie and I was like, I wonder if it was
I
marketed
thought that
heavily.
when I was a kid because my mom would always be like, we're below the Mason-Dixon line when we were in North Carolina. And my grandmother down in North Carolina had Dixie cups, and they were always Dixie cups.
Whereas in the North, we use masonry.
Yeah.
and mason jars.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
So.
The other part of it too was she also like was very adamant that they were Dixie cups, like that they couldn't be any other
off-brand.
off-brand or even like the plastic type or any of those. Like they had to be those specific ones
Because of that subliminal.
The branding was strong.
The branding was very, very strong on her, and that carried through.
And that's how I feel about bananas. I only eat the best bananas.
It's Chiquita International brands.
No, I just buy whatever's on sale at the grocery store.
Yeah,
But
whatever.
never organic, because I heard that the organic ones are really bad for the environment.
Oh yeah.
There's some, I would have to do more research on it, but I'm pretty sure it has to do with the way they farm the organic bananas. Is like they burn the crops so that they can keep the organic. But like it ends up like being really disastrous for the environment the way they grow organic bananas versus regular bananas.
Huh.
I don't know. I read a thing on it and then I just kind of plopped it away in my brain like, don't buy organic bananas. They're bad for the environment.
I thought we didn't buy them because they were 20 cents more.
Which one did the banana lady eat?
Oh, she just ate whatever she could buy.
Okay.
And apparently there's a lot of bananas in Australia. You'd think
like
so.
You'd think that she'd be very
Oh, that
big
banana
on
lady.
organic.
I thought you were talking about
Freely. We're talking about Freely.
That's why I said 40 bananas a day.
40 bananas a day.
Didn't
Freely.
she just die?
No.
Somebody else.
She's still.
Yeah.
There was another one of the raw vegan people just passed away.
Yeah.
But no, she lives on an island. She lives in the rainforest where she harvests fruit from the wild, allegedly.
Oh.
I don't know.
Okay.
I think it's all marketing.
But anyway, I thought with everything going on right now with the world heating up in October, late October, and the world heating up into people screaming propaganda at each other all day, and specifically about how the number one thing I'm seeing, at least from my perspective, is a lot of people trying to influence influencers because everyone believes that the influencers have more sway over larger audiences. So that's who they're trying to get. You'll see people who are, all the actors who are writing letters on one side saying they want a ceasefire, another one saying thanking Joe Biden for standing with Israel versus asking for a ceasefire for Gaza and all these different ones and how that's coming through. That all stems from this level of propaganda that was really crystallized and codified under Bernays and others. And this is still relatively new science.
Yeah.
Right.
That's the part that's crazy. Right. And I just found it really interesting. And like I picked this topic before the Hamas attacks on Israel on October 7th. I had this written down as a potential topic back in August. And then like as this has been getting worse and worse with the news we're seeing and also just seeing all side propaganda and what that means and what you're seeing from that, I was like, I think I should bring up who this guy is.
Right.
And then not tell anybody of our listeners until late February about it. But I just think that I thought it was very interesting. I also had heard a lot about him. And I also think that people hear, oh, he was Freud's nephew and he was Jewish. And then they just go, and he created propaganda and they run away.
Right.
It's not really true in that sense. He crystallized
really,
it, yes.
Studied it a lot more and brought it into the...
It kind of existed. He also is he's so good at it that even if there were other people who did it before him, you wouldn't know because he was so good at propaganda that he made sure there was propaganda out there that he was the first and the best.
I think a really interesting thing about propaganda after this, or like during this and after, is that I think that because of this kind of thing, everyone really ramped up how much propaganda they were doing, how many companies are doing it and everything, that we've gotten to the point where we now are better at discerning one level of it, maybe even 2 levels, and they've had to they keep having to scale it to a different level where it's like, okay, we need to pay an influencer to wear our shirt, but not mention that they're wearing our shirt. Mm-hmm. Like, we need to pay someone to do this, but not to advertise, because people will turn it off if they think they're being advertised.
Or they pay for the opposite. So like they'll be like, it's like almost like Coke paying for anti-Coke ads. So they'll be like, you'll see like an influencer be like, oh, I hate Coca-Cola. It doesn't taste good with this thing, but like, and then they get booed hard.
Right.
And that negative interaction actually pushes Coke stock anyway, because all ads are good ads.
Or like how a while back Bud Light paid Kid Rock to shoot a bunch of Bud Light.
Yeah. No, it's
that he still sells Bud Light at his bar that he owns in Nashville.
Yeah, but it's also one of those things where it's a forever cycle at this point. The biggest thing he did was point out to people, when you're doing a public relations campaign, you don't have to just talk. You shouldn't be just talking about the product you're trying to sell.
Honestly, it sounds like he never talks about the product itself.
Right.
Yeah.
He always talks about the surrounding
greater
planets.
sociological
Which
ideas.
is incredible, because like when you're thinking about PR and marketing, like,
well, it's herd instincts.
The idea of like, you don't go for, if you're trying to sell this bottle of water, we're not going to talk about the bottle of water. Mm-hmm. We're going to talk about hydration as health. We're going to talk about how drinking water clears your skin and makes your acne go away.
Yeah.
And like all the other ways.
Makes me think of like if you are a kid trying to convince your parents to take you to Disneyland.
Yeah.
His style, instead of saying anything about Disneyland, is just to say, did you hear that the Johnsons are taking another vacation this year?
Yeah.
And like, that they're going to Disneyland, but you don't tell them that.
Yeah.
Or it's like, oh, they're so lucky. He must be really wealthy.
It
must be doing really well.
It makes me think of like the beginning of Wolf of Wall Street, when someone was like, there's that whole scene where the guy's like, sell me this pen. And it's like, sell me this pen, and then like, he sells them. It's like Bernays' way would be like, sell me this pen. And then instead he'd be like, put it in his pocket. He goes, give me my pen back. No.
Yeah.
Well, now, looks like you want your pen back, huh? $1. Wait, it was my pen. No, it wasn't.
Yeah.
By the way, people who can't write die of syphilis.
Right.
What?
Can anyone truly own a pen?
Yeah. It was just he's so fucking crazy. And it's also like a lot of his plans and how he pulled it off, and the fact they were successful. It's so 4D chess as well.
Sure. Yeah.
Having women smoke. And not even fucking like mentioning it, but not like, what are we gonna do? I'm gonna have 6 women smoke at 11 a.m. on Easter Sunday at this specific street corner, walking down these steps.
It's almost
what the fuck?
The type of stuff that like would make someone believe in time travelers.
Yeah,
where it's like, okay, if we want to get a woman to smoke a cigarette, we need a butterfly to flap its wings in Costa Rica.
Yeah.
You like, just like this
but
whole
Costa
weird
Rica better not trying to have a communist government, okay?
Yeah. It's got to be Costa Rica, so we're going to have to coup their government if we want this one woman to smoke
because
a cigarette.
They keep trying to protect the butterflies, but we got to get at these butterflies.
Yeah. It's also one of those things, too, where, that's how you can see how the, especially people who have schizophrenia or have conspiratorial thinking, see it everywhere. Everything seems like a conspiracy because... Yeah, I mean, what he's doing in the most basic sense is a conspiracy about everything. He's not just putting up a fucking advertisement saying, buy bottled water. He is like, tap water's poison. Oh, by the way, I forgot to even mention, he was behind the marketing scheme for fluoridization and saying it's healthy.
Oh,
I forgot to mention that.
He really did water.
He really did water. Sorry, I couldn't find detail about it, but he was behind water fluoridization.
Government's got to keep the fluoridization undercover. They can't tell you about that.
It was listed in like his list of campaigns. It was just like, and it was just like such a weird little line where it just goes, and water fluoridization. I was like, I want more. It's like, no.
Well, no, because you can't, because the people that are anti-fluoride in water go so crazy.
They go nuts. They're like anti-circumcision people.
Yeah.
So with that, His Name Was Dusk.
Yes,
Did you have fun?
I did.
We
That's
had
great.
fun with you.
Yeah.
I like having him
That was
here.
good. This was fun. I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Mrs. P, did you have fun?
I had a great time.
Good. I wanted to influence both of you to thinking that you had fun.
Oh no!
Oh my God, he's too powerful.
Yeah. So with that, this has been a very, very fun episode. Yeah, I don't really have anything else I have to say. I would think His Name Was Dusk is going to play us a song now.
I am gonna can I throw out a plug?
Sure.
Yeah.
Hisnamewasdusk.com, which will be in the show notes, of
Yeah.
course.
And so His Name Was Dusk is going to play us off in just 1 second.
I'm just gonna play a song from an album I've been working on called Daydreams of Duncan Daisy. This song is called A Song for Daisy. Yeah, it goes like this. I fly a starship across the universe divide. Her name is Daisy, and she's big, beautiful, and wise. And in my mind, she can do most anything, and she does. This is a song I wrote for Daisy, can't you tell? This is a song for Daisy, I hope it finds her well. This is a song I wrote for Daisy, can't you tell? This is a song for Daisy, I hope it finds her well. She does changes, and I fly my route to face the dangers. You got to reboot, and with my mind, she can do most anything, and she does. This is a song I wrote for Daisy, can't you tell? This is a song for Daisy, I hope it finds her well. This is a song I wrote for Daisy, can't you tell? This is a song for Daisy, I hope it finds her well.
All right. That's been His Name Was Dusk.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, buddy. And then I don't have your mic on. There you go.
Oh, I said I like his cool guitar.
I know it's super cool.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
I wish I had a guitar that cool.
Its name is The Ranger.
Yeah.
You named it the Ranger?
It's pretty
Ranger.
cool.
That's a pretty cool
It's like
guitar name.
it's got vampire energy. That's all I'm saying.
Oh, thank you.
Like
It's very kind of you to say
if I was watching the Lost Boys, this is the guitar I think the Lost Boys would be playing
That makes
around the
sense.
bonfire.
Oh,
You know what I
yeah.
mean? We got a mullet, we got a leather duster on, we're playing this guitar.
Yeah. And so with that, after hearing your song, His Name Was Dusk,
Yeah.
we're now going to listen to you as we play everybody off. All right. Guys,
Thanks for
thank you so
listening.
much. And I hope this episode still holds up by the time late February comes.
Thank you.